start things off, please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. So on tonight's agenda, we'll kick things off with a superintendent report. Kevin?
Sounds good. All right. Mic here and move this around a little bit. All right. Good evening, everybody. We'll start out with a couple of updates for the board tonight, specifically to some things happening in Byron Center. And thanks to Tricia, she took this great picture during homecoming just 2 weeks ago. And it seems about a month ago, but the streets were filled with a lot of action and a lot of excitement and sure a lot of black and orange around Byron Center. So that was super fun that night. So Russ, if you can go to the first slide for me. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of you there. You're moving quickly. Couple of things. This was just some highlights from the night that night. Of course, the crowning of the homecoming king and queen out at Waddell Field. And what's nice about really what you see in the pictures here is just a good representation of a lot of things going on in Byron Center and the great things that we have happening here. And, you got the band that's going through the town with the color guard up front, and then each of the sports teams had their own float, and you saw the cheerleaders on there who also had part of their own floats as well. So it was really kind of a special night to kind of get things kicked off. The picture that I really wanted to kind of highlight, though, is that top far right corner, and that is a float from Van Single. And I think that might have been, Nathan, you might be able to help me, but that might have been the first time we've ever had a float for Van Single in the parade. And Michelle Wagner took over the Van Single program a number of years ago and has really done a fantastic job with things like youth theater, community theater, plus our own high school productions of plays and musicals. And this is kind of the off season, if you will, for kids at the Van Single. So they were excited to be performing. Nathan, I know Noah was out there, and he was more than giddy, I can tell you that. And so it was exciting to see him out there and just the rest of the kids having fun. So it was a great homecoming. We had a victory, so that always helps too. But most of all, it was a great night and just a great celebration of all things Byron Center. So one of the things that I want to talk a little bit about tonight to start out with is I want to talk about a special program board that we have within our 4 elementary schools, and that is called Kids Hope. And what Kids Hope is, I'm going to give this over to Chris in just a minute, so I won't steal his thunder by talking about his bullet points. But Kids Hope has been around for a good amount of time in BC, and we're super proud of this partnership that we have with some of our community churches and the work that we do to set up partnerships between the church and the school and create a mentorship for students. And I remember when I was at Marshall years ago, so this is almost 15 years ago, in the 10 years I was there, this was one of the highlighting programs that we had there, and it's just great to see it kind of flourish and continue. So what I asked Chris to do was speak a little bit about that, but also he has some special guests that are here too, and she's all smiles and ready to talk about her experience too. So Russ, we're probably going to need that remote microphone there. But with that, I'll turn it over to you, Chris, and have you talk a little bit about Kids Hope.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you all saw it was on the agenda and you all decided to come listen to me talk about Kids Hope, so I appreciate you coming. So Kevin asked me to present on Kids Hope. I've been an elementary school principal for 20 years. This is my 4th district that I've worked in. And when I got to Marshall 3 years ago, I had never seen anything like Kids Hope. And so I've been, like I said, associated with districts. We've had some great community partnerships, but there was definitely something different when I got to Marshall and started to better understand what that looked like. And so Kids Hope is a national organization, and we currently have, as Kevin said, programs at all 4 of our elementary buildings now. We also have some mentors who have followed their students up at Nichols as well as at West Elementary. So that tells you a little bit more about those partnerships and the meaningful relationships that develop between kids and adults. Our mentors are pulled from 4 of our local churches. We have Heritage, First Cutlerville, First Byron, South Harbor, and Chapel Point that are all represented that provide mentors to our students. I talked directly to one of our directors just about the thorough process that our mentors have to go through to make sure that they're ready to be with our kids. And so that includes an application process, training, references. They each meet with pastors at their church to make sure it's a good fit for both students and for the church. They operate off what's called a 1-1-1 model, which is one mentor for 1 hour for each week. And so they come to our building. Today was actually kickoff day. So our Kids Hope mentors kicked off the 24-25 season. So they'll be here all throughout the week, kind of as their first round. Our staff recommends mentees for our mentors. Typically, we have pretty good luck matching what that looks like. As you can see at the very, towards the bottom, we have 30 mentors just at Marshall. So we have 30 individuals who come in and meet with 30 different students across the district. I think that number's someplace in that range of 75, someplace in that ballpark of mentors in our district. So one of the key challenges that we wanted to make sure was in place when we opened the fourth elementary, when we opened up Heritage Elementary last year, and we did some shuffling around of students, was ensuring that some of those mentor relationships went with students because we knew how important it was. And the last bullet there just is Kids Hope plays a large role. We have a building-wide focus of doing things and activities both within our classrooms and within our partnerships that help kids feel accepted, connected, and that they belong. We feel like we can develop those relationships early on and that it obviously extends past the grade levels. So I'm very fortunate. I've invited 3 guests here to talk a little bit about their experiences. I have a 4th grade student of ours, Isla, who's going to speak. Her mentor, Miss Ruth, has joined us, as well as Stephanie Van Drunen, who is one of the directors. So I'm going to invite them up because Miss Isla has some things she'd like to say about her experience as a mentor. And again, she was very welcome that she was like, look at all these people who came to listen to me talk tonight. So, well. Miss Isla does like to moonlight on the Civic Theater stage, so she is used to large crowds. So do we have a mic for her, or can she? Oh, there we go. So.
Thank you.
You want to use that? If you
Sure,
want?
yeah. Hi, my name is Isla. I'm in 4th grade at Marshall Elementary. I'm here today to talk to you about my experience with Kids Hope mentors. I've been working with my mentor, Miss Ruth, for almost 3 years now. I see her once a week during the school year for 1 hour. During our time together, we play board games, crafts, and talk about what's been going on in both of our lives. Sometimes we go to parties together. We have one party around Christmas time where we get to play fun games, enjoy hot chocolate, and snacks. We do crafts. We even get to get gifts. Last year, I got a pink fuzzy blanket that's white and blue and pink, and I use it all the time. Like I said. We also get to go to Craig's Cruises. We get to ride the rides like Soaring Eagle. My first time on that ride was with my mentor. I get to eat great food at the buffet. I'm sorry, I call it buffet. It's buffet. I enjoy having a mentor because I get to have Miss Ruth as a friend. It's nice to have someone to talk to. I think having a mentor is a benefit because they can help you when you're having a rough day. I think this program has made me realize that I could be a good mentor someday. I could share the experience I had with other people and help kids who are struggling. Thank you.
Yes.
Isla, don't go too far. You're not done yet, okay?
I warned her.
Yeah, I'm glad you did. Come on over. You get to help that. You'll be all right. You'll be all right. I won't ask you anything tough. All right. First of all, you did a great job because it doesn't matter if you're prepared for it, like Civic Theater or on the Van Single stage. It's hard to get up in front of a bunch of people and talk, isn't it?
Yeah,
she's like, no
sometimes
big deal. Yeah, she's like, no big deal. Okay, so you mentioned 2 things that really kind of perked my interest. One, you said something about the pink fuzzy buckets.
Pink fuzzy blanket.
Oh, blanket. Oh, that makes more sense because I was going to look, what do you do with the bucket? Okay, that makes more sense. And you guys made it together? No? It was a gift. Okay, awesome. And so every time that you see that blanket or use that blanket, it's a good memory of Kids Hope. Okay.
It makes me really happy, and it's really fun, and it's really warm. I love it.
I love it. That is awesome. And then you said something, I don't even know if you know how big it is, but you said that one day you want to be a mentor, right?
Yes.
And so they often say it's in with giving that you receive. And so I love it that you're already thinking about a way that you can give back to somebody else. So tell me a little bit about what is it about Kids Hope? What is it about the mentoring time that you like the most? I know you talked a little bit, but what is it that you like the most about it?
Just when cause I go with her on Mondays, which was today. Just being like, oh, today's like Monday, and being like, oh, I get to go with my mentor today.
Yes, awesome. I love that. And for the crowd out there, I don't know if you know, but some of our best attendance days are when kids see their mentors. So you won't be absent on very many Mondays because you're pretty excited to get out of bed and get to class and get to school on that. So that's pretty good. Okay, so what's one of your favorite activities that you guys do when you guys are together?
Crafting.
Crafting.
And
okay.
then we have these we play Batman. I never used to know what it was, but then she showed me and now I know how to play. But we always do crafts. Like today, I gave Mr. Reed, which is our gym teacher, my teacher, and then I made a bunch of crafts.
Okay.
But yeah, it's really fun. Miss Stephanie always puts really cool little crafts in there, and it's really fun to find what they are.
Awesome. I love it. So come on over. You don't get off the hook that easy. Tell me a little bit, and the crowd a little bit, just about what is it that brings Kids Hope? Why did you want to be part of it? What made you want to do this at Byron Center?
My children are grown up, and most of them are out of the house. But I love children, and so I went to the Kids Hope Christmas party, and I said to Stephanie, I'd like to volunteer for that. And so when I was there, I looked at the mentees and mentors, and they were having so much fun and interacting, and I thought, I want to be part of that. I want to do that too. So I said to Stephanie, I would like to be a mentor, and so she paired me with Isla, and we have so much fun together. We do play badminton, yep, and crafts, and we also do homework.
Okay, I was going to say.
Yes,
I was going to say I haven't heard math, I haven't heard reading,
Yes,
but
yes.
I've heard crochet,
Yeah.
crafts. Yeah.
Yes, we worked through lots of math papers last year, didn't we? Yes. Third grade math was challenging. Yes, we're looking forward to seeing what fourth grade math is going to be like.
I love it.
Yep.
I love it.
Yep.
Okay, and Steph, we're going to take you away from the camera, and because as you kind of run the program at Marshall, what does that look like for you, and what's the impact that you're seeing?
So I'm in my 4th year of running the program at Marshall. I work with another lady from Heritage, and our job is just to pair these mentors and mentees up, plan parties, definitely do all the background information that we need to be part of the district, but also part of our church's policy and Kids Hope policy. So we make sure all the paperwork's ready, that they have many fun things and activities to do, and just support the school as much as our church can by providing some treats for the teachers, some smiles for the kids, and we consider it a pure privilege for us.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Give these guys a round of applause. Excellent.
She also donates her husband, who is a mentor, and he always gets the most active friend I can find. He always gets a good one.
I love it. I love it. That's great. So, Board, I just wanted to talk a little bit about that because it's been a while since we talked about Kids Hope in Byron Center, but it's been a strong anchor for us for a long time and a good number of years. I recently, just actually last Thursday, was asked to speak through a Zoom call at the Kids Hope Board of Directors meeting, their annual meeting. And it just happened to coincide with today because we had already planned for it. And we were just talking about how it has such a long-lasting impression in Byron Center and how it's really been a really cornerstone of a lot of things that we do here. So Isla, great job tonight. You did great. You can take over my speaking role here anytime you want. Yeah, look at her. She's fist pumping. She's ready. So I love that part of it. So thank you for the service that you guys do and everything that you guys do. And I won't be offended if you guys walk out now. That's okay. You guys did your part and it's totally fine. They'll walk you out. So, Board, the next part that I want to talk a little bit about, thanks, Russ. The next thing I want to just talk a little bit about tonight, or actually I'm going to turn it over to Scott and Stephanie to talk a little bit about tonight, is really a pretty prestigious accomplishment that that's happened to Byron Center just this year, and it's really the first time ever. And it is quite an accomplishment, and it quite honestly takes really everybody in this room to really achieve what BC has done. And that's everything from the community to teachers, all staff, you, the Board of Education, but really everybody. And so Scott's going to really talk through. He's got a lot of slides up here, but he promised me he'd go fast. And if you know Scott, he will go fast. But he's going to talk a little bit about our student data and some really unique accomplishments that really have set Byron Center apart. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Joseph.
Thank you, Dr. Messina. First of all, quick introduction. My name is Scott Joseph, Executive Director of Curriculum and Instruction, for those of you who I have not met. And my counterpart is Stephanie. Stephanie, where are you? Okay. Stephanie, would you stand up just for a minute? Stephanie Thalen is our curriculum director, and so we partner together all things curriculum, instruction, process, procedures, anything academic, who touches academic, sniffs at academic, or might affect academic, so it's everything. So Stephanie has joined us this year and is doing a phenomenal job of jumping in, and especially right now, really working with our K-4, our elementaries, quite a bit, jumping into that, and then also grants, some finance pieces, which is also part of our job. So as we look at one of the legs of the stool, academics, we have academics, arts, and athletics are the three legs of our stool, but we also look at the whole child and everything. This is just a piece of the puzzle, but it is our world too. Stephanie and I do a lot with this, and so just a quick look back. Every October, I come to you and give you an update. And so this is an annual event. So last October, we were talking about our goals. So we ended a presentation very similar to this last year. And our goals came up with a few things. We needed to work on K-4. There was some phonics that we saw that we had a hole in our K-4. And so we implemented some U-Fly phonics programming, some assessment intervention. And Stephanie, we could talk for hours on that, and we won't. We had a 5th grade dip. Tom Trout had been working on what was going on with 5th grade, and that was really across all subject areas, and we saw some trend data there that we wanted to look at, and that was probably, I'm going to call that kind of goal number 1. That was our primary goal, like what's happening in 5th grade, and we were seeing a huge transition when kiddos would go from 4th to 5th grade, and it was hard for the kids. So worked on some things, and Tom and his team, we'll get to that in a minute on how they responded. Working on some 7th grade ELA. There was a lot of movement within that teacher group. 10th and 11th grade math, and then 11th grade social studies. So those were our goals, and we'll end with how we did on that. Okay, so you'll see the slide again, but just in a different way. So let's go ahead and jump in. First of all, academically, I think first time ever.
First time ever.
We were first place academically in the state of Michigan. So that was very fun to be able to see, based on all of our data, our percentage of kiddos that are proficient and working through that. And since that article came out, I've received probably about 20 phone calls from different school districts. And the question is always, hey, what are you guys doing? I just take a deep breath. And what it comes down to is it's everything. It's community, it's teachers, it's our board supporting the work that we need to do. It's resources, it's finances, it's working together as a team. It's our teachers working in teams, it's collaboration, it's all of that. So there is no silver bullet. If there was, everybody would do it. And if I could pinpoint one thing, I'm going on the road and I'm going to sell it. But it really is a team approach that's doing on that. So first, when we start looking at our data, put that in the grain of sand in the category of we are the best in the state. And so I'm going to nitpick because we talk about continual improvement. We still want to improve. This is not to say anything's bad, but what can we do better? And that's always that question that's going on. So Russ, let's get started. So English language arts. So first of all, how do we do in reading and writing and literacy? Next slide, please. That gives you, picture speaks 1,000 words, but what you're going to look at is the white. I wanted to make it nice and bright for you guys to see, was 2024. So you can see how that compares to the years before. Orange was last year, and gray was 2022, and black was 2021. Couple highlights. First of all, 3rd grade. Could be the highest all time. It was the highest that I could go back in data for ELA. I want to bring your attention to 5th grade. Notice that one of our goals was 5th grade, okay? From 63 to 78%. Kudos goes to that man in the black tie right there, Tom Trout, principal at Nichols, who dove in, restructured, worked with his team, and he's going to say that goes to his team, and that's totally true. That Nichols team really dove into 5th grade on a lot of different layers, and I'll save you all the acronyms of all the things that we talk about, but really did some great work. So one of those goals, ELA 5th grade, check, and nice job. Now we got to keep it going. I also want to highlight 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. We've got some intervention. A couple of years ago, you approved an ELA interventionist at our high school. What we found is there was some dips that we were struggling with in some areas, and that interventionist started working with our 9th, 10th, and 11th graders, and you can see that data is really starting to go up and to the right. So some really good stuff with ELA. Russ? This was 2023 county results, so how did we do in the county? So again, look at that 5th grade, just kind of bring attention to that, and go ahead and go to 2024, Russ. And we went up in 5th grade to 1st, 6th grade to 2nd. So some really good stuff. So now, K5 we're 1st, 6th is 2nd. You can see hopefully where that trend is going and what some of the work that's being done and going from there. So we still have some work to do in the county there, but that's some of that continual improvement. Keep going for me, Russ, if you would. In math, let's go ahead. All right, so again, same look there. Look at 3rd grade. 90% of our 3rd graders are proficient in math. 90%. If Isla was still here, I would say she's probably part of that 90%. She had to work through it, right? Working with the mentor. Look at 5th grade. 57 to 69%. 6th grade up, 7th grade up. One of our goals was 10th and 11th grade. 10th grade, working some curricular there up. And 11th grade, we've got a little bit of work to do from a trend data standpoint, but keep going, Russ, if you would. This was 2023 county work. And if we compare that, again, notice 5th grade up to 2nd. Yep, and 11th grade is actually, even though they went down a couple percent, they were 1st in the county. That says that the assessment got a little harder, right? So even though our trend data went down, we ended up being 1st in 11th grade as well. So 10th and 11th grade both jumping up, and part of our goals, 5th grade jumping up, so doing great so far. All right, let's keep going. We'll just zip through these quickly. Social studies. One of our goals was to increase social studies, especially at the high school, 64 to 70%. Check, doing well. Up in all areas of social studies. Again, this is the team approach. Keep going, Russ, if you would. This was the county. Look at 5th grade was 6th place in the county in social studies. Keep going. And up to 2nd. So again, just some really good work that's happening. Let's jump to science. Science, we have a little bit more work to do this year. In 5th grade was up and doing well. Again, that 5th grade team really tackling what was going on. 8th and 11th grade, we got a little bit of dip. 8th grade does not concern me because we look at kind of multiple data. Troy and I have kind of started talking about some strategies in 11th grade and what's happening there. So we're diving into 11th grade. So you can see where some of our goals are coming from, right, as we go through. And keep going, Russ, if you would. So in the county, and next, from jumping up in that, so science is the one area that we really kind of stayed stagnant from the county standpoint. We've got a little work to do in that. We have some good planning with that. We've got some great pieces that even stem all the way down to our STEM courses in K4 in that. So some good action items that go. Let's take a look at advanced placement, because that's really another area that we look at how our college readiness happens with our kiddos. If that's your stock, you're doing pretty well. 2024, we're up to the right, all-time high. Congratulations, Troy Reedy, principal over there. 89% success rate on our advanced placement. Now, what some schools will do is they will limit how many kids can actually take an advanced placement class. But in Byron Center, if you go to the next slide, if you would, we actually have more students took AP classes and tests last year than ever before. Most students taking them and the highest proficiency rate. When those two move together, it's pretty impressive. So we have some work to do, but overall right now, this is a celebration of the work that everybody's doing together and really a culmination. Academics, everything really has to be clicking for academics to be working. We've got to have social emotional support. We have to have a culture where staff want to be here. We have to have time for staff to get together and collaborate. All those pieces clipping together, which is why it's so important that we continue to work together in these areas. And if you could go to the next one, Russ, for me. So after 2023, you can see those were the goals, and those goals were met. There were 4 out of 5 of those goals were met, and really proud of the teams for the work that they've done. We still have some work to do, but when we get into a deeper data dive of all of this, I will share that with you, but you can see where some of those are coming. Today is more of an overview and give you a high level. When we get into November and December, I'll be sharing with you a little bit more of what the plans are, what we've been doing, what we're working through, and what the goals are for this year. So ultimately, this is a celebration. A celebration of our community supporting us, a celebration of the work that our staff does. It's a celebration of the support that the board has given and really working toward all of that. It cannot happen with it. If any one of those pieces start to go awry, it really starts to break down and negatively affect our kids. So congratulations to us. That is a big accomplishment for Byron Center Public Schools. So thank you for all the support that you guys have given us. And community members who are here, thank you for all of your support that you've given. It comes down to everything from mentors to the individuals who are willing to volunteer, work, the support, the emails, the conversations, the phone calls. So thank you, and a great celebration for Byron Center.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott. Awesome, thank you, Scott. That was impressive that you got through all those slides, because when I saw that slide deck, I'm like, there is no way he's getting through that, but nice job on that. Board, just to bring it into perspective a little bit, as far as the academic success and all the other success we've had in BC, this is throughout the state. So we are compared with really all districts throughout the state of Michigan. So even when you look at the Northvilles and the Novis and the Bloomfields on the east side, the East Grand Rapids over here in the big schools such as Rockford and those types of schools, it's a very impressive accomplishment. And Scott already alluded to this, but it doesn't happen in isolation. It doesn't happen in a silo. It really, truly takes everybody. And obviously, it starts with the great staff that we have teaching kids every day. Kelly, I see Kelly Conlon out there. Mitchell, I saw him back there somewhere. There he is. He's hiding. He's shrunk down. But it really starts with our teachers that are in the classroom each day. But then all the other supports that we talk about as a board all the time, whether it's the behavior interventionists, the academic interventionists, the parapros that we have, just all of the supports that we have and where we're putting our time and our resources. These are really the things that pay dividends for kids. And really nothing, and it just kind of worked this way, but really you see it with Isla, a student who can get up, be comfortable how they're speaking, put me in my place about a bucket and a blanket, and I love that part. And so we really are going after the well-rounded student, so I absolutely love that. So sometimes we go too fast over this, and we're on to the next thing. Scott's already talking about the areas we need to improve, but I definitely wanted just to take a moment tonight to really celebrate really that success from Byron Center, and a very unique success for us and where we've been throughout our history. So super proud of that, and super proud of the work that the administration has done with all of our staff and with your support. So thank you very much for that. And so with that, I'll turn it over to you probably momentarily, Jason, but if there's any questions you guys have about superintendent report.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Great update. Lots of great things going on. Lots to celebrate for sure. Big successes. Isla did an amazing job, so it was a great update. Thank you. Anyone on the board have any comments, questions? If not, we'll move on to the next agenda item, Title IX report, and I'll turn it back over to Kevin.
Sounds great.
Thank
you. All right, I'll have my team come on up here for just a little bit. Russ, are you ready there? Put the first slide up for me. Okay. Yeah, sorry. Okay. Okay, so board, what I wanted to do and for the community tonight is really just to kind of give an update on Title IX for Byron Center Public Schools. Obviously, we've, as a board, have had a lot of conversation around this the last 2 months. but wanted to really bring just some details behind what this looks like for Byron Center and what this means for Byron Center. So I really appreciate really the time that all of you have put into this. You put an enormous amount of time into this, along with the team trying to answer some questions and just gather different data and those types of things. And so what I wanted to do today, board, not only for you, even though you have seen this a number of times, and this information really hasn't changed, but really to be able to speak to the public about it as well and make sure that they have a good understanding of exactly what the new Title IX requirements and regulations mean for Byron Center. And so I've assembled a great team behind me. They each have a little bit of a different role in the presentation tonight, but I'm going to kind of get things started by first starting out with Aaron Takema. So this is Aaron Takema, our Special Education Director, Jeff Wiersbicki, Assistant Superintendent of HR, and then you guys just heard from Scott up here with all things curriculum. And so they're going to kind of bring through what it means for BC and kind of talk it through their lens and really what that looks like and the meaning behind it. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Aaron.
Okay, thank you. All right, Russ, I'm ready for the next. Okay, so I'm going to start by just talking a little brief overview of Title IX. So you might wonder, where does Title IX even come from? It is Title IX of the Educational Amendments of 1972 that prohibits sex discrimination with any federally funded program. So that's where it stems from, okay? So back in 1972 and federally funded, so that's why it hits schools and colleges and universities as well. Over the years, Title IX has had different updates and changes, and I'm going to start by just talking about what happened in 2020, okay? So the 2020 regulations, some of the changes that happened in 2020 is that it really defined what is sexual harassment. Okay, so sexual harassment is unwelcome conduct determined by a reasonable person to be severe, pervasive, and objectively offensive that effectively denies a person's equal access to the recipient's education, program, or activity. So this was the definition that we were given in 2020. Another thing that happened through the 2020 regs is it came up with a new, quite laborious and lengthy complaint process. And what I mean by that is if we were to have a complaint, whether it would be from a student or a staff member, we would have to follow a complaint process that included at least 4 different people. So for example, Title IX coordinators. It would also involve an investigator, somebody on our staff, a decision maker, and then if there was an appeal, an appeals coordinator. So it was a very kind of complex, lengthy process with a lot of timelines. So that was some of the changes that happened in the 2020. I'm going to hand it over to my counterpart, Mr. Wiersbicki, who's going to talk a little bit about the 2024 regulations.
Good evening, and I do want to start with just, so we have Title IX coordinators, so Aaron Takema and myself, we serve as the Title IX coordinators in the district, so I just wanted to make sure I shared that as well. And through the 2020 to 2024 regulations, before I jump into the slides, Aaron and I worked through numerous situations, felt very comfortable, worked through them, worked together, and so as new regulations were coming out, we worked on them, we looked at them and said, okay, here we are, here are the new regulations, and feel very comfortable working through both of these regulations. So I did want to point out most significantly, the 2024 regulations that define sex to include sexual orientation, gender identity, pregnancy, and pregnancy-related conditions, and also prohibit schools from discriminating against staff and students based on that broad definition of sex. I also want to point out there's a lot of differences. That is one of the main ones, but also the complaint process did become more streamlined and expedited in certain situations. Throughout us learning more about the 2024 regulations as well as the 2020 regulations, we did become more accustomed to the Michigan law, the Elliott-Larsen Civil Rights Act. So whenever you see ELCRA up there, that's what it stands for. In court cases already protected against discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity in Michigan, and Board of Education policy includes language prohibiting this discrimination. You may have heard that there is a court out there. There's many courts that have this taking place and that they have different issues and it's being brought up. But the Kansas court is the most popular one that has issued the most sweeping injunction, expressly stated that its order did not address state laws, nor did it prohibit schools from complying with state laws. So for schools that are not part of the Moms for Liberty injunction list, there is not a choice. And so what that means is if you're on the injunction list in this court, if then your school district or that specific school actually would then revert back to the 2020 regulations, and we would follow that. And then by adopting the 2024 Title IX policy, the district would then just be in compliance with federal regulations. So Russ, you can go ahead and go to the next one. What we felt was important to share, and as there's more conversation about this, there's a lot of things going on around Title IX and other topics. And so what we wanted to do is share how does BCPS respond, and then answer a couple questions at the bottom too. And then I'll turn it over to Scott, and he can kind of explain also about the BCPS response. So you'll see the first four up there: parents' rights, pronouns, gender identity with transparency, and bathroom use. I'll kind of go over those four because those are kind of clumped together with things that have been brought up with Title IX that we want to make sure we address through Byron Center's lens. So the first one, parent rights, Title IX removes or greatly diminishes parental rights. We have shared this with the board the last couple months. BCPS continues to work with parents regarding their son or daughter's school experiences. Doesn't matter what comes across with the son or daughter, we work with those parents. And then also with the 2020 and 2024, parents can always file complaints on behalf of their students. For pronouns, teachers and students will be required to use preferred pronouns. Once again, BCPS has already had procedures set that the school, the student, and the parents work together for accommodations for situations of this nature. And we've had these set for years now. Gender identity with transparency. K-12 schools will be forced to adopt a child's gender identity regardless of biological sex without providing any notice or seeking the input of the child's parents. BCPS continues to work with the parents in these situations, and it should be handled based on each student's unique circumstances. And it's always recommended that parents are part of the decision. Then we have bathroom use as the last one kind of in this area, and that's where restrooms must be open to the opposite sex students. Once again, BCPS has had procedures for these situations. We also have single-stall restrooms throughout the district. That is also part of our procedures that we have in place to work with students and parents for the appropriate accommodations. Another area that's been brought to our attention regarding Title IX, because Title IX and sports do go hand in hand, but for this specific question and concern, schools will be required to allow opposite-sex students to join athletic teams, thereby excluding athletes from awards, records, and scholarship monies. And we work with, every year, our Board of Education adopts, I don't know if it's a policy or just it's resolution to work with the MHSAA, and we will follow the MHSAA. Byron Center Public Schools will continue to be a part of the MHSAA, and they are the governing body for those situations. So anything, whenever that were to come up, we would go to the MHSAA and work with them in those situations. The last two are more facts, or not so much facts, but it's not about BCPS. So question is, which law supersedes the other? Does the ELCRA supersede Title IX or the other way around? And then the answer is, there is no conflict between those two. When those laws do not conflict, both apply. And if there ever was an actual conflict, both federal law would supersede state law. And the last one is, I emailed all the school districts around Kent and Ottawa County, didn't get response back from every single one of them, but a concern was that BCPS is the only school to adopt the 2024 Title IX policy, and the majority of schools that I have received information back from at Kent and Ottawa County have adopted the 2024 Title IX policy. So I did want to share that with the board as well. And then I'll turn it over to Scott to talk more about Byron Center and how it's handled in Byron Center.
Sorry, you have to hear from me again. Prior to this role, I was the high school principal for 14 years, and so I had the opportunity of working with a lot of kiddos going through a lot of stuff. And I think one thing when we look at these topics, there's a lot of fear, right? There's fear of what's happening to my child when I send them off to school, and what's happening with other kids. And then you hear these horror stories that are happening on the news in different states and communities. And it raises our blood pressure a little bit. And we start to live in this state of fear. I had a great conversation with my dad yesterday. He lives up in Lake City, Michigan. Grew up north. And he has this sense of fear that his grandkids are in this world today. And he says, "Scott, aren't you afraid?" And I said, "No, because I'm in it." The difference is I don't worry about what's being said outside of our community, because I get to see what happens inside our community. And so that brings a sense of peace. And I have 2 nephews who are in elementary school. One's at Nichols and one's over at Brown. And so they're younger, and so my dad fears for them, right? And I'm like, they're gonna be okay. Because what I'm proud of is how Byron Center has handled a lot of these questions. There's policies, but then there's procedures. And the procedures are what is really important on a day-to-day basis on what we do with our kids. And so after I raised my kids here. I moved in 15 years ago. This is my 15th year, and my son wasn't even in school yet when we moved here, and my daughter was in first grade. And so watching them come through and seeing, if all I was doing is watching the news right now, I would be scared too, to be really honest. But what's fun is to see how teams can work together and really figure out the best way to live in the nuance of the in-between, of what you might hear one side or hear the other, and then it comes down to relationship with a kiddo. And so when we look at Byron Center, our mission is to help students build success stories. To do that, we've got to meet them where they are and help them to become the best that they can be. And there's a whole lot of processes that go along in that. I'm just going to use one example. And it was on the list up here, and it was pronouns. The question of, well, all of a sudden just a student can start using a different pronoun. I want to change my name and go through that. What Byron Center has found is that that's not necessarily the healthiest way to go about doing it, because that student needs some support along the way. So we have a process that if a student says, I want to change my name or I want to change a pronoun, the first thing that they do is they are sent over to a counseling office. There's some work that's done behind a closed door. There's a lot of conversations that happen behind that closed door. A lot of times that kiddo is going through a lot more than I want to change a name. But we love them, we care for them, we meet them where they are, and we start conversations. That conversation could happen multiple years before anybody actually even knows what's happening after that. There's conversations that happen sometimes with parents, sometimes with not in that setting. But if that student wants to keep going and says, no, I'm ready, I really do want to change my name, and I want to make this more of a public event, then the student and the counselor work together about telling their parents if they haven't yet. That's the conversation. We're going to bring your parents in because we partner with parents. And the parent of that kiddo then is part of the conversation, okay? So once that happens and those conversations start to occur, then if the parent says, the parent really has 2 different directions they would go. What a parent would say, okay, yep, thank you for telling, we got a lot to work through, but if that student wants to go by a different name, different pronoun, that's okay with us. Let's go ahead and fill out a form, we change that name in Power School, and it's communicated within all the staff members. What happens in that state is, keep in mind that that's done in relationship, right? There's parents who are working with that kiddo, there's counselors who are working with that kiddo, and so that's done within a relationship, not outside of a relationship, and that's really an important distinction between the two. Because outside of a relationship, there's a lot of assumptions that are being made. Inside a relationship, you start to see if that kiddo is struggling, if they're hurting, whatever they need throughout that process. If a parent says, no, we're not ready for that, then we don't. We don't go about the change. We continue to work with that kiddo in what is happening at that point in time in that kiddo's life. Sometimes, a lot of times, that is ongoing conversation with the parents as well. Of what's happening with the kid. It's sometimes some information, sometimes statistics and research that are out there of different things that are going on, and just helping both parties to understand what is happening with that kiddo. But here's the point of that. It's really not about the name at that point in time. It's what's happening with that student and that child. So if we look at all of the procedures and policies, and I think what it keeps coming down to with Byron Center is there's nuance. Every situation has nuance, and we try to work through that nuance. And so whether it's 2020 or 2024, our procedures that we do, our processes, really that's not changing. That part is we continue to work with kids, meet them where they are, and there's countless different scenarios in that, but I will tell you that it's always kind of in the middle of what we're trying to do what's best for the kiddo and partnering with the families in that. So it's a big topic. there's a lot here. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of what ifs. There's a lot about what about the future, or I heard that, and this and that. And I think what's important is we start with the assumption of meeting kids where they are and trying to help them build their success stories the best that we can.
Perfect. Thank you, Scott. So board, the reason why I wanted to have really kind of the team kind of talk, and you've heard a lot of these before, we've had a lot of these conversations before, but really not only does it talk about the regulations, but it talks about our procedures. And then really it talks, the reason why I wanted Scott to really speak tonight is because it talks about what does that really look like when we're working with a student. And coming after 14 years as a high school principal, you can imagine he has seen a lot and been part of a lot. And so I really wanted him to be able to kind of just talk about really what that looks like on a practical daily basis as we're working with kids. And we really live this motto up here about helping students build success stories, because we have 1,300 kids at our high school, over 1,300 kids at our high school. We have over 4,600 kids in our district, and we're trying to make sure that we are supporting each one of them to the best of our ability. And so there's a lot of differences between what that looks like for each student, so we want to make sure that we meet the needs of every student. So with that, Jason, I'll turn it back over to you if there's questions that you guys have or any follow-up you'd like us to have.
Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Before we get into any specific questions regarding this, just out of curiosity, okay, so didn't mean to not pay attention for a hot second, but we have overflow, so they can hear us, they can't see us.
They can hear, yes, they can hear you and see you. We got a TV monitor in the gym over there. They can hear and see. Everything's going well there. Russ, good?
Okay, so they can't see us, they can only hear us.
They're getting a video feed of the camera, so if someone's talking at the podium, the camera's on.
Chris
Okay.
said something. We can't hear.
Can't hear the board? Okay, so we just have to speak into the microphone. Pull that a little closer to you,
Okay.
Amber, and move into it.
How
But they can hear us, Chris, right?
Just
Yep,
out of
they
curiosity.
hear us speaking right here. Okay. Yeah, you just have to speak a little closer to it.
I wish
So it's
it
a little
were-
louder.
I wish we were able to see them as well. Do we know, like, is there a lot in the overflow? That's why I was wondering how many people are in the overflow.
Well,
Depending on how many there are, I don't know, that's why I'm just asking how much is in the overflow.
yeah, we can't because of fire rules, so we can't have them. That's why we set it up over there. But just so you know, they will be able to come in and they'll be able to do public participation, no problem. Yeah, I think, yeah, if you just bring it right to you, just because when that gets broadcast through here, then he picks it up back there on BCTV.
Okay, my apology.
That's fine.
I just wanted to clarify that before I went to questions regarding actual Title IX stuff. I just wanted to. Thank you.
Thank you, Amber. Open up to anyone on the board for any questions for them. Any comments, questions?
I do have a question. So there's a big difference between policy and procedure, and can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Handheld?
All right.
Okay. We'll do that as a test. Can we test that there?
Testing.
Is that better, Chris?
Can. All right, am I good? Okay. All right, my question is, yeah.
Only this microphone for some reason. Can that possibly be? That doesn't seem right, but okay. Try that microphone.
All right. My question is policy versus procedure. I just think it's helpful to understand the difference, and I don't know if anyone could clarify, like, an example of, say, the bathroom situation. If there is a child that wishes to transition, how would that look? Byron Center, procedurally wise, how would that look? And knowing that schools their policies do have to match the law, but the procedures can be unique to the school, correct? So Byron Center as a community has come up with our unique procedures. So could you explain how, for example, the bathroom policy would work if a child wanted to transition?
I'll let Scott take that one, just from being a former high school principal.
This is odd. And that,
is
this is like
odd,
a
but
handheld.
go
That's
for it.
cool.
Go with it.
We're gonna roll with it. So, yes. So, Brenda, I think you were, maybe Chuck, you were on the board too. I think about 6-7 years ago, we had our, was the last time that we worked with a student who wanted to use the opposite gender restroom. And so what that looks like is very similar to our other process and policy where, or other process, where we start with meeting with the student, meeting with the parents, talking through what's going on, working through accommodations, working through the uniqueness of that scenario. So I'll give some examples. Everything from, we've had students change clothes in the staff bathroom because they didn't even want to go down, down into a public bathroom. We have individual unisex restrooms throughout the district in various locations on purpose and where they are. And I think one of the things that we have done a really good job with is over the years really thinking ahead with this, with facilities, of having the unisex restrooms that are located everywhere. And so really Byron Center has less of an issue with that because we do have so much availability of that. And we have not had to circle back to that since the last one, which is probably 7 years ago. And so it is the uniqueness and the nuance of it is, again, meeting with student where they are, what's going on, talking with the parents and the families, talking through what they need, working through accommodations, all of those things happen. Well, then what? Then what? It depends, right? It depends on what's going on with that student in that situation. And it could eventually end up back with the board saying, all right, we have this scenario, we've been working through this, now what? But at this point in time, that's really what our procedures have been, is working with that family and making sure that they're accommodated and not having them jump into the opposite gender restroom. Does that answer your question, Brenda?
It does.
Okay. She said it does.
Anyone else from the board have questions or comments on this topic? Talia?
Okay.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention, I'm very thankful that, Byron Center has certain policies, and I think that that's, wonderful that we as a community have these special, unique, like Brenda was saying, unique things, right? What I like to do in a situation like this, though, is just look at the law and exactly what the law is saying, and I think that the issue that is happening, here in our community, but also, throughout the state, throughout our nation, with this Title IX, just is straight up looking at this law and what it says, and some people are just concerned for, children in general. So I'm just going to read something that I had the privilege of reading today. And it's something that you guys all, a pamphlet that you guys were handed, okay? So this is kind of what exactly the law is saying concerning this. And I think that that's why a lot of people are here today, is because they're concerned about how this law could change things. Can law usurp policy within a school? Can, the government say, well, you adopted this, so, okay, this is what we have to do, or, and even concerned about, well, I'll just read. So in 2021, President Biden, and you guys can follow along with me because this was what was handed to you. President Biden ordered federal agencies to rewrite federal law and remove access and protections for women and girls, as well as privacy protections for all students, to accommodate a new interest in preventing and combating discrimination on the basis of gender identity. And then there's that, order number and a bunch of numbers. On April 29, 2024, the DOED issued the final rule. The final regulations took effect August 1, 2024. Kansas, Alaska, Utah, and Wyoming, collectively the states on plaintiff states, sued to defend their interest in the continued receipt of federal education funds based on a reliance on biological reality and Title IX. a reliance on the fact that biological males are different from biological females, and a reliance on the fact that Title IX was always explicit in its protection of biological females in educational programs and activities, including sports. Ensure that women and girls can enjoy the benefit opportunities and other rewards from these programs and activities that they are entitled to under the law. The states also sued to prevent all students, parents, teachers, volunteers, and school staff from having their privacy invaded by having to share restrooms, locker rooms, and overnight accommodations with those of the opposite sex. Finally, the states sued to ensure that they are not coerced by the DOED and DOJ into violating the First Amendment rights of students, teachers, amendment rights of students, teachers, and other school employees who disagree with the dictates of the final rule. On May 14, 2024, Moms for Liberty, along with the states and others, were enjoined in a lawsuit filed in the U.S. District Court of the District of Kansas. The plaintiffs wanted an injunction that would stop the DOED and DOJ from enforcing the new Title IX regulations that were to take effect on August 1. The court granted the injunction on July 2, 2024. Here's the court's ruling. Finally, nothing in this order limits the ability of any school to adopt or follow its own policies or otherwise comply with applicable state or local laws or rules regarding the subjects addressed herein. Rather, it simply prohibits defendants from demanding compliance with the final rule by the school affected by this order or imposing any consequences for such schools' failure to comply with the final rule. Accordingly, defendants are enjoining from implementing or taking any action to enforce the final rule against plaintiff states, KR's school, the schools attending by the members of Young Americans Foundation or Female Athletes United, as well as any school attending by a minor child or a member of Moms for Liberty. Sorry that this is long, and thank you for bearing with me. According to the ruling, the injunction does not stop Title IX. It stops the DOED and DOJ from forcing schools to adopt it, and it stops the DOED and the DOJ from imposing any consequences. The schools board knew that the high school was covered and that a couple of schools were also covered, but not yet showing up on the injunction list. The school board also knew that all of the schools were in the process of being covered. The new regulations for those not under the injunction took effect August 1, 2024. Okay, so the BOE waited to have an open meeting discussion, and regardless of if you are on the board or not on the board and agree or disagree with this is just the truth of what happened. The BOE waited to have an open public discussion on Title IX until the August 8, 2024 board meeting. That meeting is an all-day event in Holland. Most of the board meetings are in closed session. It seems like it was perfect time for them to discuss the policy publicly because the chances of anyone from the public being there is extremely small. During the September 23, 2024 meeting, the board went into closed session. Title IX was never on the meeting agenda. When the board came out of closed session, there was a motion made and seconded to add Title IX to the agenda. Then there was a motion made and seconded to vote on Title IX. Title IX passed with a majority vote. Board members are making claims that they had to adopt the policy or they would be open to litigation. And I just want to clarify that that should not have to happen thanks to the Moms for Liberty injunction, for which I am very thankful. They also claim that even though the board adopted the changes, the schools under the injunction will still operate under the 2020 Title IX policy. At the time of this document, the board refuses to show evidence of their claim. The vote needs to be reversed in order for our schools to be covered under the injunction ruling. Thank you, guys. Thank you. And I know that there's people in here who do have different beliefs or a different opinion. This is just things that I'm seeing in the law and why I voted no that night, and I just wanted that to be clear to the community. And I welcome every question. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your support. Thank you. But I welcome every question that you might have, and I also am just going to address this question. I know that there's people sitting in here that would be like, oh, well, you think this way, so you just must hate trans kids, or you must hate, gay, lesbian kids. And that's absolutely 100% not true. And, well, first of all, I'm just gonna tell like a little story that I told to the board one time. I 100% love all kids. And that's why I'm serving on this school board. And Jesus does too. So I'm just going to say that. One time I had a wonderful part of a ministry that prays with kids, and I had a wonderful opportunity to pray with a little girl. And there was many that had prayed before her, so I can't claim I just got to do this once. But I happened to be there on the night when she came in, and she had already, made the decision to start a transition, and she had cut her hair and was wearing boy clothes and binding her breasts and stuff. And she was talking with me and another gal who wanted to pray with her about how she was feeling, and she was talking about these thoughts that she was having. And I just felt led to like reach over and like hold her hand, and I just told her, honey, I just want to tell you that those thoughts that you're having are not your own. And it's okay to just tell them, like, no, like, I don't want to believe that, And especially because she was there because her mother was extremely concerned that she was going to take her own life. And she had been self-harming for a while. And, so we had the opportunity to pray with her. And then I was there another time when she decided to come in just to kind of give her testimony. And one of the cool things for me was that she looked me in the eye and she said, I just want to thank you that you told me that those thoughts weren't my own. And you told me, because I was talking kid lingo, so I had told her, you can tell the devil to shut up, and that's okay. And thank you. I'm a big believer the devil doesn't play nice, so I don't play nice with him. So I just told her, you can do that. And so she said, I've been practicing that. And if I hear any negative thoughts about myself, I just tell the devil to shut up. And so anyways, the cool thing is that we have the opportunity in life to tell people, if something's harming you, you can say no to it. If something's hurting you, you can say no to that. And so I think that that's more of what we need to do for these children, is rally around them in love and tell them, we accept you. So does Jesus. And, Jesus came to set the captives free. So if he's in us, we can do that for them. So regardless of whether you agree or disagree, I love you, and I want you to know that. Thank you.
There's been a lot that's been said about the actual ruling that came out of Kansas. I just want to be absolutely clear the scope of what the ruling is. It was not a blanket injunction that applies across the entire United States to all colleges and to all schools. The ruling, starting on page 39, and going on for several pages, talks about the scope of what it does and who it applies to. I went to law school for 3 years. First year of civil procedure was a full year of law school. So I'm not going to give a civil procedure because everybody will go to sleep. But who it applies to are the 4 states, and it applies to those particular parties. Now, the goofy part of this, and it is goofy because generally district court rulings, federal district court rulings only apply to those states in which the district resides. So Western Michigan would apply to the Western District of Michigan. So this one went a little bit further and applies to the parties. So there were other parties besides the 4 states. You heard them. One of them was Moms for Liberty. So those parents who are part of Moms for Liberty, if they are in other states, this court allowed that injunction to take place for those parents if they apply to the court. At this time, do we have any schools on the list?
We have one, the high school, and we believe more are coming, but we have one that we know for sure, and that's the high school.
Okay. So right now, the high school is, since it is on the injunction list, that the high school itself will be, revert back to the 2020 regulations. All other schools at this time, because we're not under the injunction, 2024 regulations went into effect on August 1st. So we have to adopt that. There is legal liability that attaches to it if we don't adopt it. So right now, as goofy as it sounds, our schools could be under two sets of regulations. That's probably going to change as more schools end up on the list. But as of right now, and Byron Center is not unique in this situation. There's lots of schools in the state of Michigan and around the country that have one or two schools out of several that are on the injunction list. And so schools have to navigate between the two. So I just want to make it absolutely clear that right now, we passed it not as an endorsement of Title 9, 2024. We pass it as a mandatory fiduciary duty of this school board to do the right thing.
Are there any other?
And that's where we just have
Go ahead.
different interpretations of the law. And that's okay. I still love Chuck Bedwick too, even though we do disagree on this. And I just want to mention that, you know, the people that I've talked to, the lawyers that I've talked to have said, because there's the injunction, you don't have to feel pressured to vote for it. You don't have to be concerned that you're going to be sued personally or by a board, thanks to this injunction. So I just want to make that clear as well.
Thank you, Thalia.
I don't know if you guys can see me in the other room or not, but this is Amber Swift. I do have a couple, because we're talking about the clarification portion for you guys and what you presented for Title IX. I do have two small clarifications regarding what was presented to us tonight. But I do want everyone to know that, again, listening to Chuck, listening to Thalia, I did place a phone call to our MASB, the Michigan Association of School Boards. We have free legal counsel, so you guys, our taxpayers, are not paying for it. And I asked him, because there were so many things going around, and I appreciate, Chuck, I appreciate the expertise that each person brings here. I have a financial background, not a legal background, so wanted to reach out to someone that wasn't within our district that was a lawyer. And the guidance by Brad Banasic, I asked him specifically, we adopted Title IX. When an injunction comes, does that mean that we are no longer exempt? We're not considered to be on the injunction list because we adopted it? And his answer was no. The way it was to play out again, this is not what this time was intended for, but what he explained was that we were to have adopted it, all of the schools were to have adopted and implemented this new amended policy, the 2024 Title IX policy. We didn't do it. We hadn't done it until just recently. But regardless of whether or not that is in place, even if you adopted it, when your school is on the injunction list, you are covered by that injunction. That was the intended purpose per him from the beginning. So I do want you all to please know, understand, believe, trust. I have the physical document on here. I don't know if there's a way that I could just give it to Russ and he can pop it up there, but we were on the 4th injunction list. So the lists were supposed to be coming out monthly-ish, by the court. It's not. I can't push the courts. Nobody else can. But as more injunction lists come out, more schools will be added. I can't say for a fact whether ours will. I've been in contact with the national director of the Moms for Liberty, but I can tell you, you can rest assured right now, I physically, with my own eyes, looked at, it's called the fourth notice to the DOED of schools with plaintiff organizations members, August 28th, 2024. Byron Center High School is covered by the injunction. The high school is covered. So I do want you to know where the majority of the kids that we're talking about with these Title IX, I think that the most passionate part of the kids that we're thinking of are those that are going through the puberty. Through puberty, and those kids are abiding by the 2024 Title IX rules. 2020, sorry, I totally misspoke. Sorry, I'm sure my cheeks are getting ready. Anyway, I just want you guys to know that bit of information, again, that I got from a third party. Scott, I remember who said it, on the part where it says gender identity can we pop that back up, please, the Title IX additional information? Yep. So under the topic of gender identity with transparency, under our response, the second sentence says it is always, I love the word always, but it does say it is always recommended that parents are part of the decision. Can you expand a little bit on the recommended portion of that? Or Jeff, whomever, I apologize.
What I would say to this, and I always recommend it, I think this one. Similar to all the other situations, Amber, we'd be working with the parent through it. So all those situations, parents' rights, pronouns, gender identity, we'd be working with parents, guardians in order to come up with a solution that's going to be the best for that student. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, this is still Amber Swift. So my second clarifying question was under sports, where it says that we will, and I did not ask the lawyer this, and it just wasn't on my radar, where we say that we will follow the MHSAA governing body. It says not the school district. Who supersedes whom? So the MHSAA says this male cannot go into the restroom. Title IX says this male may go, or locker room, this male may go into the locker room and you can't discriminate. And they have the 1,500 pages, unlike the 1.5 of Elliot Larson. Which body has the end-all say in that? And where does our school policy fall within that as well?
I can answer this. I do know the MHSAA would strictly be about the contests of the sport, so they wouldn't decide regarding locker rooms or bathroom use. They would strictly decide, can this student play in an opposite gender sport? It would be the actual activity. So that's what the MHSAA would make a decision on. They wouldn't make a decision on the other areas. What I also can say is I do know it's been less than 10 in the last 10 years around the state of Michigan that this has happened. I can get that exact number for you, but I am confident it's less than 10 in the last 10 years that this situation has happened.
Do you have more?
Does anybody else have more?
That's what I'm going to ask. Brad, Nathan? No? Anyone? Amber? No one else has anything. Is there anything else you wanted to ask before we move on to the next topic? Okay. All right, thank you all for the update on that. We'll proceed with the next agenda item. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda items. On here, we have the regular meeting minutes, special and closed session meeting minutes, and monthly expenditures. Those have all been circulated and sent out. If you had any questions, usually would have followed up on those. And we also have an item on here for annual summer tax resolution, and Tamara will speak for a moment about that. I'll bring you the magic mic.
I don't think it is. I don't think it is a magic.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson. This is an annual resolution that is brought to the board. This is regarding next year's summer tax levy, and it is determination of whether it's a 50% tax levy or a 100% tax levy. Our district, as in years past, we divide our taxes over a 50-50 split, and that is what is being brought to the board to continue that. So we have a 50% tax levy in the summer of 2025, and then in the winter following the remaining 50%. Any questions on that? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
You bet.
Our board, open this up for any questions, debate on the consent agenda items. Hearing none, I move to approve the consent agenda items for this evening. Do I have support? Support by Amber. All members in favor say yes.
Yes.
All members opposed say no. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a vote to approve the superintendent contract. Based on the evaluation approved in August and due to recent changes to the evaluation process, the contract language has been updated. This has been sent to each member of the board for review and to raise any questions. At this time, are there any comments or questions about this? In that case, I move to approve the superintendent contract. Do I have support?
Support.
Support by Nathan. All members in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All members opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you. The next item up for the agenda today will be public participation. I have received a number of cards. As a reminder, each participant will have 3 minutes to speak, and the Board of Education has the right to respond or not, depending on the topic. With that, I'll call the first community member to speak, and I'll also mention who's next on deck and to help facilitate this.
While we're calling that up, Russ, can you do a test and make sure that these microphones do work? It seems logical that it would work. Why that one would be the magic one, I'm not sure.
Okay. For the first community member, I'm going to call Tom Hooker to the stand, not to the stand, to the podium to please speak.
And this is a test, Russ, if we can test
you guys
this.
hear me
This
in
is a
there?
test.
And he has provided a number of handouts for the board that I'll pass around now. Yep. The next person will be Jean Vanderklock. You can go ahead whenever you're ready, Tom.
Okay.
You might
Tom
need this.
Hooker, can you hear me? Okay. I taught at Byron Center for 37 years. I was your state representative for 6 years, township supervisor for 4, and I'm still on the township board. I want you to know that I am proud of Byron Center, proud to have had my kids grow up in Byron Center, but I'm concerned, and I'm very deeply concerned about this policy. I recognize that the law says that you have to pass it, but I want us to lead, not follow. It is not determined at this point that you have to have that policy in place or you'll lose your funding. It may come to that point, and you may have to decide if you're going to take a stand. On the paper that I gave you, the back side of the first page schools covered by policy, all K-12 schools, preschool, colleges, universities get federal funding. And under the restrooms and locker rooms, which we discussed earlier, the guidance makes clear that students have a right to use the restrooms and locker rooms that match their gender identity. Schools can't force a transgender student to use facilities that don't match their gender identity or segregate them into separate facilities, like a single-user restroom or isolated area of locker room. I want you to know that this is actually put out by the Center for Transgender Equality. This is their goal. This is their, I guess you might say, marching orders of what they're going to sue us for. And at this point, you're not being forced to do this. I don't want you to be a leader in this policy. I want you to stand strong against it until you no longer can. Then I would be the first to urge you as parents to pull your kids out of Byron Center schools. And I want you to know that I love Byron Center schools, and I love the people that sit up here. The people that have spoken today are people that I love and trust. And I trust that you're going to do what's right, not what's easy. It's not going to be easy to stand for right. When we said the pledge, we included under God. Until we have the final injunction on Moms for Liberty, I wish that you would stand against it. I wish one of you would say, I make a motion, we revote this.
Yeah.
And a second.
Thank
And
you,
it's
Tom.
going to take courage to do that.
Thank you,
I
Tom.
think my 3 minutes are up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The next community member, Jean Vanderklock. On deck will be Rachel Galeo.
Okay, thank you. And I'm a grandma, local Byron Center person here, and I want to say thank you for doing a probably kind of hard job, and we appreciate you loving our kids and taking care of things. I just am very aware that as adults, our compromises become our children's norms, and then they compromise, and then their children's norms, and it just keeps going like that unless somebody stands up. And I just did a study of Noah's Ark and Noah's all the things that they found there, and the time, and I read in my Bible that Jesus said, as it was in the days of Noah, so will it be at the coming of the Son of Man. And when I read about what was happening in the days of Noah, there was throwing out of God's, of moral foundation, of morals of any kind, sexual perversions. They dug up all these like different things that were pretty gross happening at that time. And I just felt like if the people that made the decisions was based on public consensus at that time, then those were the ones that drowned. And I'm just like, okay, do we want to get on the ark, or do we want to be left out in the public consensus with the, if the adults are making bad decisions, I just want to encourage you to stand up, and you have a community of a lot of very concerned and loving parents and community members that would really support you in standing up and saying, you know what? The government said this is what you ought to do. You ought to just let the boys come in here and be a girl and defeat the girls on their sports teams, and so they can't win their, get their, I'm losing, whatever you get to get into college. Scholarships and things, you know, just that you have our support to stand against that and say, you know what, let's just, if kids are confused, you do what you can to help them and bring them to adulthood as safely as we can. But yeah, we support you to do the right thing and not compromise and then make it harder for our children.
Thank you, Jean. Rachel Galeo is next. Tyler Ellert is on deck.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm a Byron Center mom, and I couldn't be more proud to live in this community. I want to thank you as a school board, like what you have achieved, and honestly, just our community and the love of our community, the safety that's felt in our community. It happens because of this. And so I just want to thank you. I want to praise you for allowing local churches to come in and be part of mentorship for these children. It is changing their lives. That says so much that you would open the doors to have the body of Christ come in and that you would choose that. Like, that speaks volumes of you. So I just want to tell you, I believe in you. I'm so thankful for you. My main concern is I've been in kids and youth ministry for 15 years at our church, Res Life, and I struggled with sexual abuse in my childhood and therefore had suicidal ideation. But it was the stability of the adults around me that led me into, what was it, my best life possible, or the best outcome possible. So you have a huge part in that. The things that I'm concerned about with Title IX, 3 portions of the amendment from 2024 says sex discrimination will now include discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. Just so you know, I have a transgender cousin, I have homosexual cousins, and I love them with all of my heart. I would lay my life down to save theirs. So I don't think you could say because we're Christians that we have any judgment. The only thing there is love. And so just want to be really clear with that. My fear with this Title IX is it changes the ways that schools conduct assault allegations, removing requirements for a cross-examination and in-person hearings. I know you said that's tedious. I totally get it, especially with kids. But what if one of my kids from church says to a student in a locker room someday, do you know God made you on purpose? And I believe that he made you a mighty warrior, a mighty man. And I believe that whatever has happened to cause you to be confused and to be hurt, that God has a plan for you. What if that is considered harassment? And now there is no cross-examination to say that my kids that I'm raising up to speak life and love and encouragement, not even to put them down for what they're struggling with. At what point is that going to be considered sexual harassment? So I just ask you, like we said, can you lead in this? Can you protect our children as long as possible? And one last thing, I have 7 seconds. Please change the policy to say we must inform the parent immediately if the child is questioning.
Thank you, Rachel. Next up, Tyler Ellert. Jill Gears will be on deck. Is Tyler Ellert? Maybe. I'll set him to the side for now. Is Jill Gears available? Okay. Next up will be Julie Branson.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you for all that you're doing, for your bravery, for stepping up. I just have felt led to lead us in prayer. I'm exercising my right. If you look at Supreme Court versus Kennedy about that coach, and we can do this. We can do this at every beginning of every board meeting. So I just want to just lift that up and let God take over. I'm not sure what I'm going to say, but we'll go from there. So if you want to, please bow your heads with me. Most precious Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day. Every day is a gift from you. Every breath that we breathe is a gift from you. We are created in your image. And God, we are in awe of your creation, and we just thank you for the gift of life. Father, I just pray that you would give us wisdom. Give each one of us here wisdom. Give the board wisdom in this decision. That we are created in your image, and you created us male and female. And the enemy has come to steal, kill, and destroy. And God, Jesus, you came to give life and life more abundantly. The enemy is sending so much confusion. And God, I do believe that it's everywhere. It's in peer pressure. It's in videos. It's in movies. It's in our food. Given too much estrogen, just on and on. God, you know where I go with this. So, Father, I just pray that you would just clean up your creation. Father, I just pray that we would walk in your wisdom. Give us spiritual discernment. Give us knowledge with understanding. And God, help us to do what is right. Let your light illuminate on us. And God, what I mean by that is convict us. You don't condemn us. We are free from condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. Conviction is saying, hey, I'm going to shine my light on you. I'm going to bring you up to where you are. We're going to remove these layers of who you are not. And God, I just pray for each one of us here, for all of our children, all of Byron Center, Caledonia, Kentwood, everywhere, God, that you would just do an amazing, clean sweep of the evil, of what the enemy is trying to do, and God, that you would thwart his plans, and that your mighty angels, your messengers, would just forth, and Holy Spirit, have your way. Have your way. Wrap us in your wraparound presence, your peace, your love, your grace. And God, in the schools, I just pray, and everywhere in this community, if there's anything that we've been exposed to that is more than our humanity can bear, that has caused negativity, sadness, despair, whatever, cleanse us of that. Replace it with your peace, joy, and love. And we just give you the glory and praise. And we love you, Father, in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
For letting me do that.
Julie Branson. Next
Hi.
up will be Lois Breedewig.
Hi, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Sorry about that. I'm Julie Brunson. I am a 30-year community member in Byron Center, and I appreciate freedom of speech, but I also appreciate freedom that my child has. My child, I didn't grow up, but I was from an evangelical church. A couple of the members that spoke before me were from that, are in that church. And my child, a few years ago, came out to me as LGBTQ. And it took some time, I will have to say, for me to process it, especially coming from the background that I came from. But it wasn't about my rights or what I think is best. It was, what does my child need? And my child is here right now. They are 18. They go by Pigeon. They gave me permission to share. They're in the other room, and I hope to God, okay, that they feel the love and acceptance and not condemnation. And I appreciate Mr. Joseph, is it Josephson? Okay, Joseph, I'm sorry, that you are loving and kind to the children that are coming in that are having these thoughts. I, as a child, also had the same, they thought I was a young man, okay? And so I understand the thoughts, and I want to say that I accept, and I will continue to accept my child and they are doing online. Why do you think? Why would you think that they would want to be online? Do they feel safe in our school? Do they feel safe in any public school, which they should? There is separation of church and state, which I appreciate. But they need to feel safe where they can go to the bathroom and not be ridiculed. They need to feel safe in an environment where adults who are supposed to be coming alongside them aren't judging them. And so I appreciate the Title IX. If that's what, you know, it's definitely new to me. This is the first time I've been to a board meeting, school board meeting, and I'm nervous as heck. But I love my child, and I'm not going to judge my child. I'm going to love them, and if they're going to continue to be going by they, them, Pigeon is their name, I'm proud to have them in my family. And I hope that all of you can accept all these students and children. We may not understand it, but to love them and accept them, that's what I ask.
Next up, Lois Breedewig. On deck will be Dean Breedewig.
I didn't really expect to be here. I just thought, well, I'll sign my name in case I want to talk. But I just feel a real burden on my heart. And I really hope that all of us here desire truth. And we can love people that are believing things that aren't true. We can live with them in love. We can help them find truth. And I just want to say that we're created in God's image, and it's really quite simple. Male and female, He created them. And we end up spending hours on things we don't even need to talk about if we would just believe the truth. Thank you.
Next up, we have Dean Breedewig. On deck will be Dwayne Gritt.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I've served on 3 local school boards, and we've always had the schools teach the truth and protect the children. That has been our goals. Friends, this is a big wake-up call for all of us in Byron Center tonight. Under the recent board decisions, we're handing our precious children to having our schools teach woke ideas and a leftist ideology. If we remove God from our schools and reject a theological worldview, our students will not have a solid life foundation and worldview to stand on. We beg earnestly for you to rescind your recent Title IX vote so that our children can learn in an unsexualized, peaceful, and safe environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Dwayne Gritt. On deck, Frank Crace. Hope I said that right.
Hi, I'm Dwayne Gritt. I'd like to thank Mrs. Tilma for standing up and voting no, at least having the courage to do it. And I don't understand why you couldn't have a meeting like this beforehand and then underhandedly the way you voted. Why didn't you have this first, then vote? Why don't you find out what us, we the people, we're the ones that pay you. Do you guys work for us? You seem to forget it all the time. We had to do the same thing with you guys with the whole book thing. It's ridiculous. Start getting some courage. Stand up. I mean, it's ridiculous. You guys, this whole thing of it's indoctrination. That's what you're after. You want to indoctrinate our kids. Stop. Stop taking away the privileges of parents. Parents have rights. You guys forget them. And this thing like, too, oh, we'll address it later. No, you won't. That's just like all our politicians. We'll address it later. Never happens. Time to stand up. You guys want to be on here. Do it. Stand up and find out what we want.
Frank Crease on deck. Pam Hooker.
Yeah, I just kind of want to address this, but I have a pastor with me who could do a much better job than me. I would like to let him speak for me, if that's okay.
He can fill out a card, and we can have him speak.
Okay.
Yep.
Almost everything's been covered, that's for sure. You go back to 1972, none of this applied in 1972. Nobody had anything like this. And when I left in the other paper. But you had the statistics down, or maybe I put it in this pocket. Good thing I got 3 minutes. Okay. It says LGBT teens, 6 times more likely to experience symptoms of depression. Youth, more than twice as likely to feel suicidal, over 4 times as likely to attempt suicide. Why in the world is the government pushing this? And why in the world would any school system do this? We're to love these children. We're to love these youth. And anything that's destroying them quicker than the regular ones, I'm all for so many Christians that spoke out tonight, and it is. It definitely has to do with what the Lord has. But when we see something that the government is pushing, and they're forcing it on the schools because the money is there, and the money has to be there to support the schools, but they're also not being fair because they're pushing an agenda, and it's an evil agenda. And we need to fight it, and I know that your position has got to be really hard. You got to have the money, and you got to have the school run. And like Tom Hooker said, take the children out of the schools. It may come to that. But the point being, the government isn't supposed to be running our schools. And at one time, if you read history, and I know everybody has, the main book that the teacher had on her desk in the 1800s was a Bible, or her, him, whoever. And we have gone so far from that. And I just want to thank you for the time here and for the many who have their faith in the Lord, and pray that wise decisions will be made. Prayers have been said and everything else. So thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Next up will be Pam Hooker. On deck, Ryan Brandow.
Well, this is always very difficult for me because I'd really rather be up here praising you for all the wonderful things that you're doing in Byron Center. And I do appreciate it. You have been very instrumental in making our schools excellent, and I appreciate that. But it's not a time to be nice anymore. We are fighting the enemy. We are in evil times, and it's against our kids. I'm going to ask the board right now, what would you do if a boy wants to go into a girl's locker room, any sports or whatever? What is going to be your answer? Are you going to let them do that? Because you will be required under this law to do that, and you cannot. The law requires not to make a separate bathroom for them. You have to agree with the bathroom of their choice. Teachers will be required to use the proper pronouns that they prefer. Kids are looking for help today to guide them in education, not affirm harmful, poor choices, but instead help them make good choices. These kids, and frankly adults, need counseling not to affirm their lifestyle, but to expose the danger of poor life-changing choices. It is always the argument that you can't bring religion into school, but this is exactly why we are where we are. Christians would not take a stand against the evil that we are now being forced to fight against. We are a Christian nation, And we were until so many Christians took a knee or refused to speak out. I would never affirm, in fact, it's a loving thing to do not to affirm or give consent to any child misled by the enemy of this world who desires only to destroy them and their families by telling them lies that God made a mistake when he created them. I thought I would never have to bring this up again, but more than 30 years ago, I had the misfortune to ask a police officer at an abortion clinic, if they were killing 3-year-olds in this clinic, would you still arrest me? His answer was, if it was my job, I would have to. Do you have any boundaries that you will not cross? This is one I will not cross. Here is your question. If you could protect one child from an immoral exposure, would you? This is the time for you to answer. You are here to obey men, or are you here to obey men rather than God? And it's time to stand for what is right and not what is expedient. I guarantee if you are concerned about lawsuits, you will only have to look at Rockford schools right now who are battling a lawsuit from parents whose 11-year-old child was being groomed and transitioned without their knowledge. It is a national case. Do what is right in God's eyes and not your own. I would recommend that whoever is advising you on the issues that you find another advisor, because you are being advised wrongly, and I don't commend you for that. So.
Ryan Brandow. Next up, we have Reverend James Lee.
I just got to say, this Title IX is a bit of a slippery slope. Like many of these people have came out here and said, as my daughter gets further into school, allowing these type of things to happen can lead to sexual assaults in the bathroom. I mean, I've heard tons of other schools happening where a 19-year-old got sexually assaulted because a boy said, "I am a girl," and was allowed into the girls' bathroom. And you know what the school district did to the father? Kicked him out of the school boardroom, swept it under the table, and he got arrested for it. I don't want that to happen to any of these parents in here. To sit there and say, I have to accept this Title IX is just a cop-out. We can't just sit here and just be like, you know what, the government says we have to, so we're just going to do it. Well, you know what I mean? If I have to say, F the government. If this is safety for our children, I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it in our schools. I don't want it to be a slippery slope, an open door to something quite evil, actually. And if we continue to let this happen, this slope is going to turn into something even bigger. And I don't want to have to pull my daughter out of Byron Center schools. You've seen the statistics. You've seen how well kids have been doing here. But this type of thing, Title IX, is going to destroy all of that. If we want to sit here and we want to be happy and grateful about all of these statistics that we see, we got to hold to that and not let anything destroy it. But this Title IX stuff, this gender ideology, I understand because of social media and everything like that, it's got all these kids confused. And instead of teaching them the truth of things, we're sitting there just allowing them to believe these make-beliefs. And I think that's going to hurt things in the long run. And if we, like I said, if we want to keep these statistics, these awesome numbers, and being a blue ribbon school, allowing Title IX to happen is going to destroy all of that. Parents are going to start moving out of the Byron Center district. And parents are going to start pulling the children out left and right. And then there is no Byron Center. There is no, we did awesome math this year, awesome graduation. More kids graduated this year than last year. We're not going to have that. It'll be decimated if we continue this.
Thank you, Ryan. Reverend James Lee. Next up, Gene Graham.
I've been a resident of Byron Center for 33 years. 5 years I pastored the Baptist church here in town. Now pastor of New Nica Bible Church for the last 22 years. I I have 3 boys that graduated from Byron Center schools, a daughter-in-law that graduated from Byron Center schools, 4 grandchildren that graduated from Byron Center schools. When we moved down here 33 years ago, my kids came home, and the first reaction was, Dad, Mom, it's like going to a Christian school like we did up north. I cannot say that today, and I'm ashamed of that. First of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity to talk to you. Secondly of all, I want you to know, I know on certain terms, my goal is not to condemn your decision concerning Title IX. Let that sink in. The Bible says, Matthew 7, judge not lest you be judged. For with judgment you are judged, you will be judged. But I do have a couple of questions concerning your decision. And specifically, I address this, and I do not know any of you, unfortunately. I want to address this to those who claim to know Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, and as a Christian. Here's the question. Here's the statement. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 10 says, we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, that everyone may give an account of the things they have done on this earth. The things include verbal things, decision-making things, action things. At the end of every one of my messages, I have a little close that says, life response. Life response questions for you guys. How do you believe that God is going to judge you individually in your decision-making when it comes to Title IX? It violates God's natural and moral code. Are you willing to declare that you are welcoming God's evaluation of your decision and make concerning this issue? Are you willing to accept His decision, His judgment, His condemnation if you are violating His law? Joshua stood before the people one day, and he says, you know what, if you want to choose the gods of these people over here, that's fine. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. May I suggest, humbly, go back to 33 years ago when Byron Center schools stood with the Bible, a secular school standing with the Bible, where kids can come home and say, Mom, Dad, they have the same values we have, the Bible's values. And if we do not, you will destroy a school that I once was proud of, and our kids were proud to graduate from. Thank you.
On deck, Sherry Vandermueller.
Hi, my kids were students here. My youngest son just graduated in 2023. But I was here with the whole mask debacle, and I must say that this board has been more courteous to the public speakers than they were back then. It is a testament to the parents that we have 2 board members who are conservative Christians who have spoken up, and I appreciate that more than you'll know. My grandfather, back in '72, he was one of the many teachers, coaches, administrators who helped develop the original Title IX. Their family friend, Vern Norris, was the Michigan athletic director from MHSAA. They would be absolutely rolling in their graves right now to know that all of this is happening. And it breaks my heart. I played sports all through high school, college. After that, my athletic career was affected by Title IX to the positive. But it is not right now. It's not safe. And right now, this whole Title IX 24 is an executive order that is not even binding. And it could be over with November 5th. So you are under no obligation to adopt it by any means. Even if they came after you, it would be hung up in court. long after, and you guys would have it probably overturned. So I'm asking you to please just not do this. There is nothing pharmaceutically, psychologically, surgically, that can change a person's gender. Nothing. And that comes from a retired pharmacist. So if anybody tells you that you have to affirm any of this, you tell them, no, God affirms what you are. Thank you.
Sherry Vandermueller. Next up will be Matt Coleman.
Hey, first of all, y'all did a great job. I do ask you guys to reconsider what all of these people are saying. Satan is the one that comes to steal, kill, and destroy. He is destroying our kids by entering their minds. God, before the beginning of time, had a plan and a purpose for each and every one of you. And Satan has a plan and a purpose for each and every one of us, and it is to destroy us. God loves us and our kids, but we honestly need to speak the truth. And the truth is that one by one of us can change the world. God loves us, God loves our kids, and we need to not go with this inclusivity thing. I mean, even the churches, a lot of churches are so into not ruffling feathers that they are just going and saying, oh, come on in, yes, we'll accept all this nonsense. My husband works in an atmosphere that he actually drives city bus, and you wouldn't believe what he deals with. And they have training now, and instead of training them on how in the world to drive the buses and be safe, they train them on how to not ruffle any feathers and use their pronouns. And I mean, the stories he comes up with are insane. And if you let, one of you said, well, there's only been 10 in a number of years. One is too many. I'm sorry, it is. They are influencing our kids. That's all I had to say. Please change it. Find a better way. Find truth. Love them. I wrote a book, and it's called Fully Loved Always. On the back of the book, I said, love can change you, your family, your relationships, and the world, one by one, by millions. But every one of you has to do your part. Thank you.
Matt Coleman. Next up will be Paul Studebaker.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thank you for
welcoming and listening to the public tonight. I heard about the Title IX issue in the news, and then more recently heard that this board passed some changes regarding Title IX. And wanting to make sure I'm getting the facts straight, I've been trying to figure out like what those changes actually were specifically, because it was confusing to me. How do you change a policy for some of the schools in Byron, but not for others? Like when we have the injunction in place, like how do you pass a policy change? So I've been trying to figure that out for a few days here, just to make sure. This is an important community debate, important issues, real world issues. That father that spoke about the risk to his daughter as she grows up. These are very, very serious issues. So I tried to figure this out. So I went and looked. I'd heard it was a September 23rd meeting. So I went and looked, and I saw in there that there was something about salaries and then a closed session. I was like, okay, so I understand how this works. With the Open Meetings Act in Michigan, you go into closed session, you hear from the attorneys, all the details, and then you come out of closed session and then you add something to the agenda, and then you vote to pass that on the agenda. So I understand how that works, but still I don't know specifically what it was that you passed to understand it in detail. So then I emailed last Thursday the Title IX email address for Byron Center Public Schools, just asking what are the specifics, what actually policy changes were passed, and I didn't get any response. So asked a number of the board members were engaging on social media, and I appreciate that. I think that was helpful to the community discussion, but still trying to get the specifics of what actually passed, I don't know. I haven't seen it. I called this morning, left a voicemail, the number on the Board of Education site, haven't got a response. I asked coming in, can I get the meeting notes, or the notes from what was passed, and they won't be posted until after they're approved tonight. So I think, on the website, you just approved the September 9 meeting minutes. That video from that meeting has been posted for a number of weeks. I think that would be helpful for the public to be able to see what actually has happened. But better yet, don't hide important issues behind a closed session that nobody knows is happening.
Hello, Board. My name is Paul Studebaker, and my wife and I reside in Byron Center Township. Although I grew up going to Jenison Public Schools, and as was shown earlier, Byron Center is an incredible academic institution. My wife and I have chosen to homeschool our children because Byron Center Public Schools teaches a worldview and critical morals that directly contradicts with what we teach our kids. For instance, we teach a worldview that God is the center of everything in math, science, history, language, etc. Byron Center teaches a world without God. And contrary to popular belief, that's not secular, that's an atheist worldview. Additionally, we have two beautiful daughters, ages 4 and 5, in our house. And they will not ever be in a bathroom or locker room while a boy is. This can happen at Byron Center. Now, I've heard it said, Paul, if you homeschool your children, why do you care what goes on in public school? If you want different morals taught, just send your kids to one of the Christian schools. It's horrifying that so many people have been normalized to this thought process. See, every year a large amount of money is taken from my family to pay for schools that we don't want to use. That in of itself is robbery, and no one, not the Christian or atheist, should be subject to that. We should have the freedom to use our taxpayer dollars how we want to raise our children. But if we don't have a voice regarding what's taken from us, that's slavery. Here's my voice after what I've heard today. I know there are people here tonight who are not Christians. They've heard a lot of scripture quoted. For me, I just want to speak from logic. I know the genuine heart shared by these people is they want these trans children to feel comfortable. Please understand, if a male-born child enters a girl's locker room, all those girls are uncomfortable. Whose comfort matters? I can't let my daughters go to this school because of what could happen to them. Should we compromise the comfort of the majority for the comfort of the few? And the answer is no. I know this is difficult. I know that the people who are on the other side of this coin genuinely have a heart that cares. But we're at an impasse. My daughters can't be in a locker room while a boy walks in. They don't want to be, and I'm guessing the majority of girls do not want to be. So this is wrong. This is wrong, and it doesn't matter if it's one kid in 6 years, anything. Girls shouldn't have to be scared that it's going to happen at any point in time. Thank you.
Next up, James Van Harn. On deck will be Cody Logan.
Good evening, everyone. Board members, thank you for letting me speak, and I appreciate the work that you do and the hard positions that you are in. I do not envy you at all. One resounding question hit my mind that where will it stop? We've heard of things such as schools having to have litter boxes in school bathrooms for children who identify as kittens or dogs. These things are not right. And it's wrong to react with fear and with hate and anger. There needs to be love and care and respect and dignity given to every human being. But there is right and there is wrong. So much of what this comes down to is sex. Why is that? It's our flesh. It's what our bodies want. What has brought down society more than anything is the destruction of the family. Whether you're a Christian or not, believe the Bible or not, what is historically proven to be true is that a solid home with one man and one woman as a father and a mother is the best. I come from a divorced home. I am divorced myself, unfortunately, and my children have had to go through that journey, and it hurts. I'm willing to bet that over 75% of you here, if not 100%, are touched by divorce. And it's all because of our selfishness, our flesh, our wants, our desires. And I mean, if you even want to bring in the issue of abortion, and it's a hard one because there's people who didn't want to get pregnant and they're in a tough situation, and my heart goes out to you. We need to be reaching out and helping, giving love, giving care, giving support. Righteousness matters. So let's put aside politics. Let's look at, and even the statistics and the data do confirm what is best. So please don't go with cultural norms or governmental pushes, but please follow the path of righteousness.
Thank you. Next, Cody Logan. On deck, Missy Bauman.
Hello, that's my brother-in-law, James. I concur with everything he said and Paul before him. I also would like to add that 12 years ago, I married a wonderful woman, and we decided one of the reasons we got married is we agreed that we didn't want our kids to go through the indoctrination of the school system. So we have 3 kids that we live in Byron Center and we pay taxes here, but we are homeschooling our 3 kids. And I totally concur with what Paul said, because what James said, where does it stop? This is just, it's a stepping stone. You give the devil an inch, he takes a mile. He pushes you back 1 inch at a time. And when you react in fear, that is exactly what he wants. It's whenever you have the courage to stand up and do the right thing in a bad situation, that is what is going to allow this to stop, this inching to stop. Push a little bit more, and he keeps pushing you back. The Christians have to stand up and stand in the gap at some point. I'm not standing here for my kids. I'm standing here for some of theirs. I came here and I just took a night away from my family so I could stand in the gap because I see other bad things happening, just like everybody else has mentioned. We have to stop and do the right thing, even when you stand alone.
Missy Bowman.
Thank you,
Ne-
Board, for
one-
listening to
ma'am,
the community.
1 second. Just real quick. Next up will be Lisa McCoy.
Great.
Just so
Thank
she's
you,
ready.
Jason.
Yep.
My name is Missy Bauman. I grew up in Byron Center. I live in Byron Center, and my taxpayer dollars go to Byron Center Public Schools. And I'm also a precinct delegate, so I'm here speaking on my behalf and also the behalf of my constituents that live in the area and vote. So what we want you to know is that we are for Byron Center Public Schools. We are not against them. We are for the students. We want them to know that they are fearfully and wonderfully made. They're special, they're important, they're significant, and they're not mistakes. We want them to know they have a plan and a purpose for their life. We want them to have a positive future, and we want them to be equipped and educated and be productive citizens in the world. And we are not for the confusion of the Title IX policy and the destructive verbiage. And we ask as citizens that you re-vote on this, preferably tonight, and that you vote no, and you wait for the injunctions to pass, and you will be covered, and you won't have to fear litigation, and you won't have to fear lack of funding. And so that's what we ask that you do tonight. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. Lisa McCoy. Next up, Robert Cogswell.
So I'm going to change a little bit originally from what I was going to speak on, since Amber, you're now claiming that you talked to a lawyer and they have said that the injunction implies, correct? Now, it sounded like they made a statement to you, but really didn't give any evidence. Chuck and I, we've been arguing about this already. So here's what I want to say. Let's just think this through. Injunction, what does it mean? It means a court order requiring or not, wait, sorry, I got to get my glasses on. Okay. It's a court order requiring a party to do or not to do a specific act or acts. The very definition of injunction means it's a court order. They're ordering a party not to do something. So what the ruling says is this. It's very simple. It says, finally, nothing in this order limits the ability of any school to adopt or follow its own policies or otherwise comply with the applicable state or local laws or rules regarding the subjects addressed here. I'm reading it fast because I only have 3 minutes. So that is saying that the board can adopt the policy like you did. But what the injunction does, it says, rather, it simply prohibits defendants from demanding compliance with the final rule by the schools affected by this order, or imposing any consequences for such school's failure to comply with the final rule. Accordingly, defendants are enjoined from implementing or taking any action to enforce the final rule against the plaintiffs, as well as the school attended by a minor child of members of Moms for Liberty. So let's logically think through this. The injunction means the DOE and the DOJ can't enforce Title IX, correct? That makes sense. You just blank stare, or does that make sense? Okay, we'll go with blank stare. So, and this is the part that just drives me nuts. I don't understand how you say. How can you say, now you guys adopted Title IX, correct? At the district level. That's my understanding. So the policy is now in effect at the district. How can you then say, and I don't care if a lawyer Chuck says it, how do you say the injunction applies to the school? The injunction doesn't stop Title IX. It stops the DOE and or the Department of Ed and the DOJ from enforcing it. It doesn't stop. You guys voted on it. The injunction means nothing. It doesn't stop Title IX. It doesn't say the injunction stops the school against their own district voting for it. Does it? I mean, think through it. And the thing is, as a lawyer, it doesn't sound like he gave any evidence. I've been asking Chuck over and over again. I want you to walk me through from the ruling, because maybe, you know what, I'm not a lawyer. So maybe there's some case law, et cetera, that I'm missing. Walk me from the ruling to get me to where you can say that, and nobody can do it. It's ridiculous. And
Thank you. I know, I just want to make sure that she understands that I talked about that earlier, page 39 of the, and this isn't a discussion, I'm just going to state that I stated earlier, if you read page 39 under scope, it explains exactly what I said. That's it.
okay, well,
So
you're wrong, and
we're
we
done-
can
we're
debate
done.
that. We're debate it through email.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Next up, we have Robert Cogswell. On deck, Amber Wendling.
My name is Bob Cogswell, and I'm a 34-year resident. We raised, sorry. Thank you. Sorry. My name is Bob Cogswell, 34-year resident. Raised 3 kids through here. Very proud of Byron Center School District and our teachers and our staff. Had the opportunity to do my master's internship here in 7th and 8th grade many years ago, and actually worked here last year as a parapro. So I know the district, and I know what the testing is. I've never been prouder than to see this district be #1 in the state. I was 10 years testing coordinator in another district. So I know what the data means, and I know how hard the staff works. And I appreciate you so much. And I trust you. At least I trusted you. I want to trust you. But this vote has brought an extreme level of concern because of it seems almost underhanded, secret. And I don't want to feel that way. I don't want to think that about you. I voted for you folks because I trust what you put in your bios. You're for all the kids. I'm very concerned about my girls, okay? I love what you said tonight and how you work with teens. I was 20 years as a school counselor. I appreciate very much how you work with the families and the kids. But I am concerned with some of the language. Recommended rather than demand parent contact, right? Recommended means there's wiggle room. As a parent, if I found that you were working with my child behind my back, I don't know what I would do, whether you would be able to restrain me, right? I've given my life to my kids, and now my grandkids, okay? I've got grandkids in the district. So I want to trust you. I want to believe you. I don't want to fear for my kids. And I also can see the transgender side. I've worked with transgender teenagers and gay teenagers. I know where they're coming from. I understand their fear, all right? So it's not one-sided, folks. It's two sides. There's fear on both sides, right? It goes a long ways, and relationships mean everything. I appreciate what the school district is doing. I really do. And I've been here. I know. I see it. So I appreciate what's going on. But you can't leave us in fear when you take votes like you did, okay? This discussion would have meant so much more before the vote, right? Would have relieved so much pressure on you and on us. So I thank you. I appreciate you folks. And I want to keep my faith in you, okay? Thank you.
Next up, Amber Wendling.
Thank you so much for the time.
Next one's Melly.
Sorry.
Next one will be Melly O'Brien.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the time. My name is Amber Wendling. I have 2 children that attend Byron Center schools right now. I realize that I am not in the majority in this room, but I want to start with something that you people have been bringing up quite a bit. Leviticus 19:18. Do not seek revenge or bear a grudge against anyone among your people, but love your neighbor as yourself. Love your neighbor as yourself. If we had a Jewish child in here right now, or a Muslim child in here right now, they would not feel the love. You are asking and demanding that a public school embrace Christianity completely. That's what you're excited about. I want the board to know this does not represent Byron Center. Let me be clear. This is a select group of individuals who are very, very proud of their Christianity, and that's great. Go to South Christian. Go to Grand Rapids Christian. This is Byron Center, where we take care of our own. Regardless of the color, regardless of the religion, we are a public school, and we need to take care of these kids. And I've had it with all of you coming up here and spouting off about your Christianity and how these people are responsible for that. You do not understand law. You do not understand our government. Our government is for the people, by the people, every single person, regardless of your religion, regardless of the color of your skin. So stop right now. I will go home to my beautiful home here in Byron Center, where my children do attend, and they help get your academic scores up, just so we're all very, very clear. This does not represent Byron Center. Please do not think that it does. This is a select few that have come out. We are proud of you, very proud of those of you who voted the right way. And I get that I'm getting heckled right now, so thank you for that. You're really showing the love for your neighbors when you do that, and you're rude. But anyway, back to the point. I am. You're right. I am.
Please address the board. Thank you.
Sorry. Please know that there are people in Byron Center, several people in Byron Center, who do not think this way, who do not feel this way. We want all children to be protected, regardless of their gender, regardless of if they're transgendered, whatever it might be. We understand why you have to accept this. It is law. You cannot fight the law. That is not what your job is. Your job is to make sure that we follow the law that is set. If the law needs to be changed, then they should run for local government, not school board. Thank you.
Next up will be Melly O'Brien. On deck, Jonathan Klein. Melly.
Hi, my name is Melly O'Brien, and I raise my children here in Byron Center. And I just want to encourage you, the board, to do the right thing. I don't believe that we should let males into our sports and into the bathrooms with other little girls. I mean, I remember being a little girl. I was raised in the inner city, and I was molested in the bathroom by another little girl. And I just can't imagine a boy being in the bathroom with a little girl. Please don't do this. It's evil what's come down, what's happening in our society. And I encourage you to please do the right thing. I'm sympathetic for people who think they're trans or whatever, but I also know that you can't have males in sports with girls, and I can't. I'm sorry, I'm just really nervous, and I just want you to please do the right thing for our kids. Thank you.
Okay. No, Amber mentioned that there are some empty seats in here. If there are people in overflow that want to fill the seats here, they're welcome to. Next up, we have Jonathan Klein. And on deck, Kevin Greenlees. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I did have something prepared tonight, but after listening to a few people, it's kind of changed a little bit, you know, especially not the last lady, but the lady before, who's very passionate. I would never stand up here and denigrate anybody for their religious beliefs and whatnot, but I think, you know, I'm also in the overflow room, which is crazy, you know, and so I'm hoping your policies and procedures work better than the microphone situation, because at times we can't hear anything back there. But, you know, I do say I do have faith. You know, I've talked with some of you one-on-one in person. I wouldn't want to be in your position, but I think a lot of people in this room are now motivated to try and take that position. And I'm going to support whoever wants to, because some of the stuff that I've seen online between some of these board members and the way they talk to us and treat us, I don't mean to regurgitate anything to anybody out here, or to not, because we don't have a law degree, we may not understand. There's decorum, there's respect. And that's what pissed me off the most. Miss McCoy, love it. She's awesome. I'm glad she made those emails public for all of us to see. I think what really upsets me the most is we are a good community. We get along. You know, we can debate Title IX till the cows come home, but at the end of the day, we shouldn't be yelling at each other like this. That last lady, like, who cares if Christianity or not Christianity? I'm telling you right now, black, Muslim, whatever, they're in here, they're safe. We know that. Bottom line, I was back there with the lady talked about her daughter Pigeon, right? Sitting right next to me. She had the biggest smile on her face watching her mom stand up here and defend her, and I might not agree with it, but I was damn proud of her, you know? And I wish they were still here, because I would say, Pigeon, you got any problems at high school, you come talk to me and we'll get it taken care of. Because that's what Byron Center is. What we're not for is we are being played by politicians like these, aren't we, every day? They go into a meeting, closed doors, you know damn well you were going to be talking about this crap, and then you decide to have a vote on it, and you could have just not had any of this. Neighbors fighting, yelling at each other. It's the information you provided tonight was awesome. Like, I got it. It was great. But why not before? Why do I have to? I love my wife, but man, she gets on me when this stuff happens, and I don't have time for it. She's like, you're talking tonight, and I'm like, I don't want to. What am I hate public speaking. But we talk about transparency. You know, we voted for you guys, and I do have faith you guys will do the right thing when push comes to shove. If not, you vote them out, and you put in the people you want, and that's what you do, right? Is that my time?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Next up, we have Kevin Greenlees. On deck, Jeremy Blanchard.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yep, go ahead, Kevin.
I hate public speaking. My name is Kevin Greenlees. I went into accounting because I hate public speaking. I'm good with numbers. I'm good with keeping my company afloat. When my wife left the Navy about 5 years ago, we had an awesome opportunity to live anywhere in this country, anywhere in the world, really. I mean, I'm an accountant. She's a nurse. We can go anywhere. They want people of our kind everywhere. We wanted to come back to Michigan, where we grew up, but we didn't want to go to the same old southeast corner. And when we started hearing more and more and more about Byron Center, we were just head over heels. This community, its values, the small town feel, the ability to cruise down 104th Street in the middle of summer with my windows down, blasting Country Roads by John Denver, the greatest song ever written. It's just an awesome community, and we love being a part of it. But what sealed the deal for us was how profoundly strong the schools were. We grew up in a corner of the state of Michigan that has awesome schools, Country Day, and all sorts of wonderful opportunities for children. But Byron Schools knocked them out of the park, and we're very happy to say that from kindergarten on, all of our kids have so far been in Byron Center Schools, and we plan to stay here forever. So I want to thank the members of this school board that have helped build such an awesome district. It is a thankless job, obviously. I don't want to draw lines in the sand in my community, and I think you're trying to navigate that. It's a burden. I don't envy you that. But I do want to say that I am one of the people in this room that thank you for navigating a very tricky and otherwise what should be a dull procedural vote to conform with federal law and regulations. So I thank you for your support of Title IX and how it is. Oh, you're all right. Yeah, but votes like this help protect trans kids. And I'm not here to say that I think that a boy who just flippantly says, I'm a girl, should be allowed to wander into a locker room full of young girls. I don't think anybody believes that. I have friends in this room right now that I'm looking at that are on my side of this that don't agree with that. We don't think that. We don't want young men to attack young women. The decision for a young person to say that they're a transgendered individual is profoundly difficult. And as your counselors know, it's not something that kids take lightly. And I don't for a second believe that the school district here or anywhere else in the United States is going to say that any boy that says they're a girl gets to go wherever they want. It's young people who have a transgender identity will be allowed to use a private bathroom. And I think that's fair for everyone. And I'm shocked that people are offended by that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Jeremy Blanchard. On deck, Stephanie Fongers.
Hello. Excuse me. Not my thing. I just felt like I had to come here and say something tonight. I have 2 girls in this district, and we moved here because of that. And I just have something written because otherwise I'm going to blow my time, so bear with me. Rachel Den Hollander said, it costs you something to side with the vulnerable and the weak and the oppressed. It costs you nothing to side with the one who's in power. And even if you don't agree with the minority, we should not be oppressing them, othering them, or making them less than. I've seen many in today's current hot topics invoke Jesus in their words and their actions. I don't believe he would participate in much of what he sees. I try to be curious and not judgmental, which leads me to asking a lot of questions. Sometimes the answers are things I would say. Other times they surprise me or even shock me. They even sometimes challenge my previously held beliefs. Sometimes I've even changed my beliefs based on these questions and conversations I've had. I try real hard, and I don't always find success in assuming good intentions in all people. And when there is genuine good intent, I'm more than willing to engage in actual conversation. I know enough teachers, not just here in Byron Center, but many places around the country, that I can confidently say they did not go into this for money or fame, or even as some are claiming to have power over these kids and turn them against their parents and their beliefs. These are your neighbors. These are your friends. These are the ones that, if the unthinkable would happen, I have zero doubt they would lay down their lives in an instant for your child. They live with that dread every single day they go to school. To teach, to be a safe space, to be part of the village it takes to raise a child. And when you send your child to public school, that's what you sign up for. The different people, the beliefs, the cultures, just like in the post-educational real world. Meanwhile, the arguments being made can be summed up by the education system wants to harm your children and infringe upon your rights. It's false. Full stop. Teachers barely have the time to teach the mandated curriculum, which is decided at a state level. They don't have time to indoctrinate your children. This fear-mongering, the suspicion, and conspiracy theories, it needs to stop. We need to make school board meetings boring again. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephanie Fongers. On deck, Andrea Toth. Stephanie here? Is Tyler Ellert still here? We called him earlier. Set those over. Andrea Toth. On deck, Angela Regas.
Hi, my name is Andrea Toth, and I've lived in Byron Center for 12 years. I'm a mom of 4. I'm just emotional about this. I'm a mom of 4 with 2 in the district and 2 younger ones that will eventually be in the district. I took my 2 older daughters out of Byron Center Christian for the academics that Byron Center offers the community. This is the community. I worry about what is to come with 2 young ones in kindergarten and a long way to go for them in Byron Center and 2 younger ones at home still. I worry about teachers. I talked to multiple teachers today, and the position that they are in when they have to use these pronouns and things like that with what they believe. They want to make kids feel safe, but they're put in these situations. I worry that if we continue with this, will these teachers leave the district? These are the teachers that are making these glowing academics happen, these scores with these students. What's going to happen in that sense? Okay. I believe in Jesus, but I want to talk about the other side, okay? I think having boys in our school sports is an unfair advantage for the girls. It's not fair competition. It's a skewed playing field. Okay, we allow it. Is there a cap? It's a slippery slope, we said, right? So let's talk about that. Boys usually play more sports than girls. So how would that be fair? How would that be fair for our girls? On average, you can expect boys to exceed girls' physical performance by 8%. This is about standing up for our daughters, our girls. They deserve equal opportunity to enjoy the benefits of these sports and opportunity and rewards. So now if you have boys competing against them, how is that fair? Girls as young as 5 years old feel that they don't belong in a sport. And now they will be beaten by boys. There's mental health crisis in our teenage girls, anxiety that's spiraling upwards, along with self-harm and eating disorders. Don't make it harder for our girls. Don't make it harder for transgender kids. You allow them into these bathrooms, and they're going to be bullied and harassed even more. I'm asking you to vote no. The community is asking you to vote no. Please listen to the community. Thank you.
I don't know. What do you want to ask?
I don't even know what to say anymore. I feel like everything has pretty much been covered.
One moment,
Yes.
Angel, yep. If there are people in the overflow, we have room in the main room. Is there anybody in there? Yep, I'm sure there are. I don't know, but yeah. So next up, we'll have Angela
Hi.
Regas.
Yes.
Yep, and on deck, Dean Sullivan.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I came here tonight from requests from many of my constituents, which I represent Byron Center in the State House. And I'm not feeling as bold as I usually am, because I do see both sides of this issue. And it is very hard. There's no easy way. You can hear from people all night. But the truth is, it's a terrible position to be put in. I appreciate all going on and on and on and all the public comments, and we appreciate most of you listening. So I'm not a Byron Center parent. I was asked to be here tonight. I proudly represent this community, and taking a stand is never easy. Going out of your comfort zone is never easy, and I know several of you have spoken in public for the first time, and it is difficult. Bravery is never easy as well. All of us were created in God's image, and we should be treated as such under the current anti-discrimination laws and policies which are already in place. Title IX and the Elliott Larson expansion were not designed to create a utopia of peace and love. They were designed to force the people to comply with the anti-God, anti-family, evil agenda that is destroying this Christian nation from the inside out. Title IX puts our children, God's children, in danger, and we know it. I'm just sorry that we don't have an easier way out of this. But boys do not belong in girls' locker rooms, bathrooms, or sports, and vice versa. I remember as a teenage kid in gym class, self-conscious, just dreading if anybody walked in at all and saw you change. I couldn't imagine if I saw a little boy or a boy come in and see me change. It's unacceptable. And I don't know what the answer is, but this is not the answer. So I pray that you will make your decision and for this community, because the community showed up tonight and the majority is not for this. But I also respect the opinions of the minority who's also showed up, because they also have genuine concerns. So, yeah, I'm not as bold as I normally am tonight. I'm sorry if I disappoint you, but I'm feeling quite emotional by some of the people that have got up here to speak. And I respect all of you. I respect all of your opinions. And I hope that moving forward, we can figure out a solution to keep boys and girls separate. Thank you.
Next up, we have Dean Sullivan. On deck, Lance Laker.
Good evening. Probably 20 years ago, I was a school board member. I don't envy you guys at all. It was 4 of the most wonderful, awful years of my life. Everybody thinks they can do it better. You guys are limited beyond what the constituents understand. I'm looking for a, what do they call it, bylaws, the policies and bylaws, is that what it is? Literally, when you go on the school board, they hand you a notebook that's 5 or 6 inches thick. And those are the laws that you have to abide by. Title IX at this point is not one of those laws because there isn't an injunction against it. So I'm not going to argue all night about Title IX, its provisions, its limitations. I'm just asking, let this thing weigh out, like all the other districts except for 2 have done. And don't try and jump on and be the first ones out.
Next up, Lance Laker. On deck, Dean McDougall.
Thank you for letting me be here tonight. I'm not here for myself. I'm a pastor in the community, and I know this is something that's affected a lot of our families, even some of our teens, and we're very proud as a pastor that served here 15 years. Maybe I have a little bit of a different approach, and it isn't even from a biblical perspective, just what I've learned as being a community participant in Byron Center. I've learned Byron Center is a hardworking community. Obviously, it's passionate, right? By tonight's evidence. And the other thing that it's a great leader. We saw tonight the pedagogical and empirical data you had about altering instruction, about moving it in a direction that you were addressing needs that were in the community for our kids and for the direction. And there are a lot of people that are scared. My heart breaks for someone like Pigeon, those that are on the opposite side of this issue as a whole. But one of the things that I think Byron Center epitomizes has always been leadership and integrity. I thought that was evident by the way that you responded to the data that you had. Even in instruction, you made a plan for what the issue was. And I don't think, even being here right now, my heart breaks in so many ways. I don't think the answer is pulling our kids from these community schools. I don't think the answer is having kids go to other schools. The answer, I think, at least collectively from those that are in my church, is the community wants to be involved in this with you. They want to be a part of the solution. They want to be involved in this process. And for me, that was a big thing, having some of our teens come over and say, Pastor, can I just talk to you? And, we talked a lot about it. And it's not just to quote scripture, but the idea that we've been given, the idea, not a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. And our prayer for you is the ability to make that decision with the sound mind, to be able to pray over this and to pray over everyone, because it is heartbreaking how this affects both sides. The passion, the excitement, all of these things. This is a community that stands for what's right, that does what's right and works together. And my prayer for the community will be the same thing moving forward. I pray you'll reconsider this proposition, and it'll be something that you'll vote on. Thank you.
Next, we have Dean McDougall. On deck, Matt Thomas. Matt will be the last speaker unless more items come through. Shannon, thank you. Go ahead, Dean.
Good evening. I'm Dean McDougall. I'm a resident here at Byron Center. I wanted to take this a little bit in a different direction a bit and kind of have a civic lesson review. And for my own benefit and the benefit of people here, we got the representative here from the State House and you folks. I was always taught that in the wisdom of the founding fathers, the school district was organized to be separate than the governing body of the legislature of the state and the federal. School districts are supposed to be independent. You are elected by the electorate of the local community. You raise your own funds. They're not supposed to have control of your funds. Like we saw tonight, you guys had to vote on how the millages were going to be collected. I feel bad that you guys feel, and you should be, as a group of school boards across this country, say, hey, stop. You guys should stop taking and sucking our power or our legislative responsibilities to put it to a federal level. I mean, this gentleman here said we need to pass this Title IX because if we don't, we got Big Brother that's going to be here with the club. I mean, you folks, historically, correct me if I'm wrong, you're independent. In some instances, you have even separate building codes and communities, and you are a governing body. So why is there this feeling of threat that you have to comply? Because it's like a bully. It would seem to me that there would be school districts across the country that would be lobbying or coming together. All these organizations seem to, exclude their special interests. You guys are giving up your power. And I find that that's sad because it was always that the school board was supposed to reflect the feeling of the local community and be financed by the local community. And would the state of Michigan comply with the legislative body of the state of Ohio? No. So why is there a feeling that because another governing body is going to take your power away from you to force you to pass something that I feel the sentiment is you think that you would have liked to have held back, that you would like to not comply with, but you felt compelled that you had to under threat of being sued or libel or whatever. So that's really unfortunate, I think. And I mean, you guys are a separate body. So anyway, that's my take.
Next up, Matt Thomas.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. My name is Matt Thomas. My wife Kelly and I and our family have lived in Byron Center for 20 years. And we're really proud to say that. Like we carry that with us wherever we go, whether it's in this state or across the entire United States. We're proud of that. We're honored to tell people about the values of this district, of the values of the people that live here, the values of the board members, the values of the teachers, and even the students. Thank you for the many board members that have come before you in keeping those standards and values so high in our community. Thank you for serving here tonight. These roles and positions are not always easy, just like many people have mentioned here tonight. But tonight, you have an opportunity. You have an opportunity to stand firm for those values that have lived among us for these last 20 years that we've been a part of this community. You have a chance to take a stand, to stand up and stand out for the values of the Byron Center School District. When you read the Byron Center School District website, the one word that stands out to me the most as a father of 4 children is the word safety. Safety is used over and over again, all over the site, and all over the uploaded documents, and all over the introductions, even Kevin's introduction. If you read the 3rd paragraph in his, it says, as always, student safety is our top priority. The word safety is even in the bullying policy. How are you going to provide safety and keep my daughter safe who plays volleyball and basketball when a male gender student who identifies as a girl walks into her locker room? That's the question that I'm not afraid of. That's the question you have to answer. My wife and I, along with our oldest daughter, who graduated from Byron Center, and our son who graduated, are heartbroken about something like this even being a possibility at Byron Center Public Schools. It grieves us to think that we would even have a situation like that that could happen in our schools. Would you allow an adult male who identifies as a gender female into the girls' locker room? There's no way, not even a chance. If you truly care about the safety of my daughter and the safety of all the daughters of the parents represented in this room tonight, you should do the right thing and vote to appeal the decision you already made. Take a stand for the values that we have lived by for the last 20 years. This is a time to lead with values. Thank you very much.
David Vanderklok is.
Thanks. I think I get to be the last one. I just wanted to say thanks for all that you do. And I love as he was sharing going, we want our children to be safe. We value their safety. And I want to point out that Title IX isn't about keeping kids safe. It's actually endangering our students. When you look, you go, okay, hey, it's removing the protection for the girls. It's removing their safe places. And as you guys looked at it, you said, hey, there's a lot of concern that it could do some of these things, but we have policies in place. But as soon as that becomes what you have mandated, it changes policies. And if you've accepted it and they hold you to it, then they can then sue you going, hey, you're not holding to this anymore. We now have the right to unquestionably declare what our gender is and go wherever and in danger and whatever danger that brings with it, which has happened in other districts across the country. Now, someone mentioned one of the court cases already this evening. And when we look and we go, hey, remember all of our daughters. When this doesn't go, hey, it's protecting the LGBTQ. This is enforcing everyone to agree and recognize. It's not giving them a new right. It's removing everybody else's right. It's removing people's rights to have some privacy. It's removing everyone else's right to go, hey, if you want to do that, that's up to you. but I don't want to go along with you. And you're going, no, now you have to go along with me. Otherwise, you're harassing me. You have to call me whatever I want to be called. And you're taking away everybody else's rights. So please protect everybody. We're not telling you to be mean to them, but from what you've said, this removes, it would counteract the policies that you have in place that say, hey, go ahead and use this single bathroom. And it removes everybody else's rights and freedoms and goes, their freedoms matter, yours don't. You have to all serve and lay aside your safety for these, rather than going, hey, we're going to keep everybody safe. So please keep our families, keep our children, keep our daughters safe.
Jason, would you mind if I interjected something real quick?
No, I don't mind.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I just got word during this, sorry, can everyone hear me? I hope in the overflow room. During this meeting, I heard from Granville's school board meeting that tonight Granville decided to table any discussions on Title IX. They decided not to vote on it tonight. So that's wonderful. A lot of our districts in the area are doing that. I know that Caledonia did not adopt it as well. TK didn't. So I just felt like the community needed to know that, needed to hear that, and I also feel that our board can think about this as well.
Jason, I'd like to say something.
Just one.
I wanted to say something.
Yeah, go ahead.
I knew I wanted to say something to, for some reason, I'm really weirded out that like people are in an overflow room and we just can't see face to face. Not weirded out, I really wish that everybody was in this room. Yeah? Okay, I say I would just love to have everybody, and if they would like to, if you're in the overflow room, I would love to see personally. We've got space just to see your faces. You can see ours. Maybe you can, I don't know. I knew I wanted to say something this evening. I just didn't know what. Many of you, not many, a portion of you have reached out to me in person. I'm not a big social media person. I don't get on Facebook unless someone sends me a screenshot. That's just not what I do. And so I decided to go on and let the community know, for those who are on Facebook, that you could reach out to me specifically regarding my specific vote. This is not I'm not speaking for any other board member by any means, nor would I ever do that. And so I thank you to those of you who did the fact checking and reached out to me just on my own personal vote. I will tell you that having been in the meetings, it definitely did not feel, for those of you that have the perception that we did something clandestinely, as a member of the board, it wasn't on our agenda. It wasn't in that evening's plan. You can see it, it's black and white. It wasn't done the way that it happened. It did not feel like it was done under the cover of night. But for me personally, I thank you all for showing up, for those of you that spoke, for those of you that allowed me into your homes to express and explain my initial vote to you. I feel that you should know that for some of us, we had a certain amount of information at that time before we voted. I have come to absorb a lot of other information regarding Title IX, regarding Elliott Larson, regarding our school policies, which supersedes what, and I still have a learning curve ahead of me. I'm not going to pretend that I know the end all be all right at this moment. But whether you are wanting the adoption of Title IX or you're not wanting the adoption of Title IX, I felt and feel strongly that it is our obligation, our duty to all of you who put us here to listen to you first, which is what has always been what we have done in the past. People do make mistakes. I will tell you that that evening, I feel like none of us felt like we were making a mistake with the information that we had been given. I feel like, again, I'm not speaking for everyone. I know how my decision that night flipped on a dime. And it was because I truly had at that moment what I thought was best for Byron Center. But I digress, because the most important thing should have been what we've always done in the past, which was to look at the information on the board side, bring it to you, listen to you if you so choose to speak on it, which I'm sure you all would have anyway, because Title IX is a hot topic. And then for us to go back and dig deeper and ingest and digest what it is that each and every one of you said. So with that being said, I would like to move to rescind the motion that we adopted at the September 23rd meeting regarding policy 2266, Title IX, sexual harassment.
A motion has been made to rescind the motion adopted at the September 23rd work session regarding policy 2266, Title IX, sexual harassment. I believe I heard Thalia second that motion. I will open this for discussion and debate for anyone on the board now, unless you're ready for the question. Any comments? Any questions? We will now take a roll call vote. Please state yes or no. Chuck? No. Thalia?
Just want to clarify, are you saying a yes or a no on the rescind?
Yes. The motion is to rescind. So if you're saying yes, you're agreeing, you wanting to rescind it. If you say no, then you do not want to rescind it. Brenda? Brad?
No.
Amber?
Yes.
Nathan?
No.
And as for me, I would vote yes. However, the vote is 3-4 and 4 against. A majority has not been reached. The motion to rescind did not pass. Thank you. Is there any more topics for tonight?
Dr. Messina, Mr. Wiersbicki, fellow board members, and Byron Center Public Community School. Over the past few weeks, I've seen the inside of a hospital more than a person should have to unless you work in one. As many of you know, my father recently was hospitalized, made his way to assisted living, entered into hospice, and peacefully passed away on a beautiful Saturday in October. Unfortunately, the hospital visits weren't only confined to my dad. I was recently diagnosed with chondrosarcoma, a rare bone cancer. I've traveled to the University of Michigan Rogel Cancer Center to consult and discuss options with their specialized sarcoma team. In the next few weeks, I will undergo surgery in an effort to remove the tumor and, with any luck, lose a few pounds in the process. As such, in the interest of my health and my family, I've informed Dr. Messina of my decision to step down from the board effective November 30th. This has been an incredible journey over the past 10 years. I'd like to think a few people have made the journey possible, not just for me, but for our schools. Matt Millard, my first campaign manager. Gordy Nichols, a true gentleman and one who encouraged me to become part of this board. Former board members I served with over my tenure: Chris Schride, Lenore Rudy, Bruce Dennett, Yvonne Boucher, Marty Phelan, and Crystal and Perry, for your love of this community and the schools. This board, for those of you who do the right thing even in the face of adversity. Brenda Jason, as Dorothy says to the Scarecrow, I think I'll miss you most of all. All of the teachers and staff who work tirelessly to educate, nurture, and help make all of our students thrive, whether they are white, black, brown, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, atheist, agnostic, smart, athletic, artistic, special needs, those working with an IEP, straight, LGBTQ, or one who is just a pain in the rear end. I know you have their best interests in your mind. The leadership team, Jeff, Tamara, Scott, Doug, Russ, Vince, and all the school principals and APs, your daily commitment to making our schools and district a district destination district. Dr. Messina, I know you, I've known you since my children were greeted with a big wide smile from a young bald man waiting the chaos of early morning arrival at Marsh Elementary. Your incredible, thoughtful, and level-headed leadership is inspiring and should be cherished in this community. Through your leadership, Byron Center truly has reached the next level in academics, arts, and athletics. The community for the continued support of those who understand the mission and goals of BC. Finally, my family. I know I missed a volleyball, basketball, or baseball game or two, maybe even a concert, because I was attending a meeting. But you knew it was helped to make the schools a better place for all kids. I love you, Rugrats. And Lori, you are the love of a lifetime, and you've seen and heard the best and the worst. Provided great counsel and always stood by my side through thick and thin. I don't deserve you, but thanks for taking one for the team. I am going to miss nights like this. Byron Center Public Schools, thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. We will really miss you.
One thing before you adjourn.
Yeah, Kevin, you want some things to talk about?
No, I don't have a lot of things to talk about. Thank you, Chuck, for your service. We will definitely have you back for an official goodbye. It won't end here tonight, but we thank you for your service to everything that you've done for the board. So really appreciate everything you have done for the community and beyond. So appreciate that. Thank you, Chuck.
Since there's no further business today, I'd like to thank
Jason,
everyone from,
Jason. I'd like to say one more thing.
Go right ahead.
I want to make sure that the public knows I'm going to stay around. I want to talk. I want to be in relationship with you folks. This decision today was very difficult. I know I was not elected. I was appointed, but I take it very seriously. So for anybody that wants to stay and get to know me, preferably have a civil discussion. I'm game for that. But I want to talk to you. So I'll make myself available. I'm going to just say a couple more things, just because I think it's important. We have so much more in common than what some of you think separates us. I'm not just saying that. I know very few of you real well in this room. So I guess I would just say, I would encourage us all. There were a lot of really good comments today, both sides. And I think some of the best comments were about love and respect, appreciation, gratefulness. And there's a lot of other words. There's a whole lot more that brings us together than separates us. Some of you, based upon my vote tonight, probably make some pretty significant assumptions about me, what I value, etc. I think we just have a different, for the majority of us, I think we just have a different opinion on how to get to this point. I voted the way I voted today because I feel compelled by this, and Chuck brought this up on social media, and I'm just going to say this for me publicly. I might agree even with a lot of what was said tonight, just generally speaking. But this is the thing that Chuck said to me that it's just so true. We cannot pick and choose which federal and state laws to follow. I really believe that. There are different avenues, there's different ways about going about this. So there's a lot more I could say, but I don't want to be in a soapbox, and I just appreciate y'all coming out. It's 9:45. So I'm willing to talk. Appreciate your time. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. I don't have the final say because I'm not the chair, but thank you for that.
All right. Does anyone else have anything to say? Comments? All right. So since there is no further business today, this meeting is adjourned for the evening at 9:41 p.m. Thanks, everyone.